Hi everyone, Rosemary from Rosemary Astrology, and welcome to your December 2024 astrology. We're going to start with Capricorn because we are going into Capricorn season. That's going to be on the 21st when the sun shifts. But briefly before that, what is going on this month? Well, there are two new moons this month, the 1st and the 30th. So two chances to set intentions in whatever area of the chart this falls for you. Mercury retrograde is going to end on the 15th. That's great, but we'll still be in post-retrograde shadow until the 3rd of January. And of course, Mars stations retrograde on December 6th. Not something any of us like. Thank goodness Mars only does that once every 2 years, but going to bring quite a difficult energy. And Mars is even going to oppose Pluto again because he is retrograding back. So he's going to do a repeat of what he was doing at the end of October and start of November. So Capricorn, let's start with you because presently from the 1st to the 21st, it's going to be like your New Year's Eve. Of course, you're preparing your year. The sun is sitting in your 12th house, very much where we do inner work, where we look inside, where we go to be alone and examine those things that are really private to us and that we keep secret. So a review of perhaps the past year, what you want to keep doing, what you don't want to keep doing. It can be habits, it can just be projects, things you're doing. At the same time, Mercury is retrograding there. The Mercury retrograde takes place in Sagittarius and just in Sagittarius. So Mercury not only is our communications, but it's also our thought pattern. So we might be really reviewing our outlook, how we approach things, how we think about things. Often our preconceived notion or our, I'll say, mental setup sometimes determines the outcome. We sometimes, this is the area where we discover where we're our own worst enemy. And sometimes, we realize that our outlook or the way we approach things is sort of determining how they're going to play out. And we're not always doing ourselves a service. That's what I wanted to say. So again, year-end review, and even more intensely so with Mercury retrograde there. Remember, Mercury stations direct on the 15th of December. Very intense when a planet stations retrograde or direct because they're grinding down on those degrees and they're really like stationary there. So might be really sending you a message, and whatever does come up or whatever work you're doing isn't completely over until the 3rd of January. So you might still change your mind or change your point of view or change what your thoughts are on that. There are two new moons this month. The first one on the 1st at 9 degrees of Sagittarius. So good time to set a resolution in that area as well, or usher in a new way you want to do things or approach things. Always good to have the energy of the new moon there. Will I talk about the next one right away? Yeah, let's do that. So it will be on the 30th. There's other stuff that's going to go on with the moon in between, but it's going to be at the 30th in your sign, Capricorn. This, of course, is how others see you, your outward appearance, your online profile, or it can be, something on the website of a company, for example, the organization you work for. Very much a time to, again, set an intention there on the 30th of December for the year, for 2025 and beyond. Maybe a new way you want to show up, a new way you want to present yourself, a new way you want to be seen. Maybe you're going to be, doing something like completely changing up your look, redoing your wardrobe, buying stuff that is, very different from your usual style. You want to project a new image. Or it can be, a new online profile. You're on a new platform of some sort, and you're presenting yourself in a new way. Let me leave the moon there. No, let me put them back. Okay, I can't make up my mind today. Venus is in your sign, but only until the 9th, probably making you very charming and attractive whenever Venus is in our sign. We're very attractive to others. But will not stay there for long. On the 9th, already moving into your 2nd house. Venus relates to money, and the 2nd house is our wealth, our income, our money, our valuables in terms of what is valuable to us. Can be very, very favorable energy there. At the same time, Pluto arrives there on the 19th of November, is beginning a long 20-year trek through your 2nd house. I do have a video all about Pluto and Aquarius. I might actually do another one. But this is Pluto's transformative energy has probably made quite a statement upon arriving on the 19th of November, and is going to sit at the first degrees of your second house for all of 2025. But with Venus there as well, can bring in, as I said, something very favorable, someone to help us. Venus really likes to create ties, so someone can offer us an opportunity of some sort. Again, with Pluto there, you're also going to see where the power and control lies. So you might be thinking, do I have power over my finances? It can be, this can concern another person, but it can also simply concern how much of your money is already predetermined for expenses, for debt. Do you have enough control over what you want to do or power over what you want to do? But that's a long, long discussion. So please do watch the video all about Pluto in Aquarius. Let's talk a little bit about Mars, and we'll talk briefly about the full moon. Mars does station retrograde on the 6th of December. Mars has been slowing down for quite some time, is going to retrograde between Leo and Cancer and end that only in February of 2025. A Mars retrograde is really difficult energy because Mars wants to do something, but now he's forced to go backwards. The energy goes on a loop. It's as if we don't know what to do with this energy that's going on in circles. This is debt, inheritances, money you share with a partner, property you share with a partner, be it business partner or life partner. And if you have projects there, if you have something you want to do, things are going to just feel like they're going around in circles. This is a really good time to replan, revise, review things. But anything you're going to try to go ahead with, expect it to backtrack, expect it to completely disappear as well, because at a certain point, Mars is going to shift into Cancer. So the focus is going to be on your 7th house of relationships and partnerships. That also includes exes, that includes rivals in the competition, in so much as they're very significant to us. So very much that idea of intense one-on-one with the 7th house. So whatever you are trying to do in either of these two areas, you can feel your motivation just waning. Things will seem to fizzle, disappear completely. We just don't ourselves have the energy for it anymore. Use that energy again, as I said, to plan, to review, really assess whatever you are trying to do, and be prepared when Mars goes forward again. Let me give you the dates clearly. Mars stations retrograde on December 6th. So again, planet stationing retrograde or direct exerts a lot of energy. This is going to be in Leo in your 8th house of shared finance, shared property, debt as well. Moves into Cancer on the 6th. So bringing that mixed up, I'll say, focus to your 7th house of partnerships. Again, goes direct on February 23rd, but still in his shadow, still slow until March, and will still be in Cancer. So whatever does come up again, don't really go ahead with it, because things are going to go on a loop, and don't take that frustrating energy too seriously. You're going to think, oh, it's not working, something's wrong, I have to fix something. Mars very, very much wants to do something. I have to fix it. I have to push ahead. I have to get, people on board. I have to almost make them. That is the Mars energy. Just plan, assess, and be ready, at the start of 2025 when Mars goes direct again and starts catching up. We're even going to be into into March with Mars when he catches up. Mars is going to oppose Pluto from the 25th of December to the 6th of January. That is going to be exact on the 1st of January, 2025. I did do a video on the previous Mars-Pluto opposition, so if you want to refer back to that to really understand the energy. But basically, this is, a fight to the end, a conflict to the end. We're talking, the god of war wants to win, wants to reach the goal, can be very, very combative, especially this opposition to Pluto can make Mars very, very combative and very conflictual. And of course, Pluto, god of the underworld, all about power and control. 2nd house, as we said, our wealth and income. This is what is shared with a partner or shared in terms of a loan, a mortgage, a grant of some sort, financing of some sort, inheritances as well. So you can see the power struggle back and forth here. We want to control our income, and Mars wants to do something maybe in terms of investing in it, maybe investing it, maybe in terms of, contracting a mortgage or a loan of some sort. When we have things we want to do, always a question of finding balance, and things are even more skewed this time because Mars is on that retrograde loop, so getting very, very frustrated and very, very confused. My advice is always, lie low. You might be feeling powerless. You might be feeling nothing is working. But again, that is just the energy. So don't get pulled into that, and don't get pulled into really, really trying to struggle against that and making things work at all cost. Because there's always that idea of just, wasting our energy and our time, because Mars is misdirected with this retrograde. And of course, neither side is going to back down because we are talking Mars and Pluto. So I wrote choose your battles, but then I wrote or avoid them completely. Finally, full moon, or next to last, full moon on the 15th in Gemini. Let me put the moon over here. Ooh, joining our friend in Gemini. Again, this is going to be opposition between 12th house and 6th house. Again, that question of finding balance. The moon highlights something. This is your area of work, jobs, paid or unpaid, where you're of service to others. It's a question of health as well, our physical health, as much as the 12th is our spiritual health or our inner health. So maybe whatever you are working on here, whatever you feel, perhaps it's even been, draining you on a mental level or a psychological level. The moon might be highlighting something that is going on in the 6th house, and you're thinking, okay, what needs to come to an end here? What has to culminate here in order for me to be in a better situation, here in my 12th house? It's always a question of, where demands are made on us, where we have to work, where we have to perform duties, where we have responsibilities. And again, our inner well-being, is this demanding too much in terms of work and I don't have any time for myself? I'm mentally drained. Or, my inner self isn't really corresponding to what is going on the outside. Then, of course, on the 21st, the sun, I was going to say the moon, the sun moves into your sign, start of your birthday month, Capricorn. Focus, is on you. You're feeling energized very, very much where the sun is. The sun is really shedding light on your first house, on who you are again, how you present. As I said, the moon by the 30th will be here with the sun. So good time to make a resolution. You'll have about 9 days, a week to let the sun's light shine and see, perhaps where you want to make a resolution, what you want to usher in this year. And of course, could tie in with the inner work you've been doing there as well. And just before I wrap this up, I wanted to mention that when Venus does arrive in Aquarius in your 2nd house on the 7th, I believe I said the 9th, so I'm sorry, it is on the 7th, Venus will conjunct Pluto. Pluto is not only making a statement with his arrival last month in Aquarius, but is getting triggered by opposition to Mars. And of course, first of all, a conjunction with Venus. So exact on the 7th and still in orb until about the 10th, Venus's charm, desire for bonds, focus on money as well, and very much so in your 2nd house is related to money, becomes unusually intense. I'll say almost visceral desire for control. It's not just, hey, what are my finances doing? How much control do I have over that? How much, freedom is it giving me? What can I do? What can I not do? But it's going to be very, very intensely felt. Venus conjunct Pluto usually does this in terms of relationships, a desire for a lot of intensity in a relationship. But again, here in your house of finances is probably going to do that in terms of finance. And when the opposition between Pluto and Mars rolls around, it could tie in with this again, and it's going to be on a very emotional level. Not good when we mix money and emotions, but it is going to show up this way, really that desire of what can you do? How much, freedom do you have? Does it affect relationships as well? Does it affect what you share with a partner perhaps? And it could again, be the precursor of the Pluto-Mars opposition. So Capricorn, that is everything I wanted to tell you for December. Have a wonderful month. Take care. Hi, Aquarius. Well, in December, the sun is sitting in your 11th house of groups you belong to, your social circle, an organization, association of some sort. Usually has that word in its title, or just a group of people around a common interest. I sometimes say, a yoga class, or perhaps you belong to your local Stargazers Association or organization, for example. This is also long-term projects. We sometimes say long-term goals. So you are perhaps reviewing that as well. The sun just sheds light and energy to wherever the sun is, changes areas every month. So this is like your yearly check-in, right? So it shows up once a year in that area of your chart. Your yearly check-in, how are things going? Is there something new you want to do? Is there something you want to stop doing? Is everything going okay? Do changes need to be made? Mercury is retrograde there. Mercury, remember, stationed retrograde on the 25th of November, comes out of retrograde on the 15th of December. Remember, that's a day where Mercury is going to exert a lot of energy because he is changing directions. But we are also in the shadow period until the 3rd. So you could be definitely reviewing something with Mercury there. Anything that comes up in terms of agreement with the group, remember, can change up again until the cycle is complete on the 3rd of January. So it's sort of a bit like a double-edged sword in that you are being drawn, or your focus is being drawn to this area, but at the same time, things aren't completely set until Mercury is out of his cycle. There's a new moon there on the 1st, so good idea to set intentions. Again, don't hang on to them super firmly because Mercury continues to mix things up. But maybe something, you want to usher in a new way of doing things, maybe steps you want to take towards a long-term goal. Always really, really good to work with the energy of the new moon. Let me continue with the sun. On the 21st, the sun is going to shift into your 12th house. This is like the preparation of your New Year's Eve. So the sun is just shedding focus on your inner world, what is very, very private to you. This is a time, if we use this energy well, of really taking a good look at ourselves and thinking, what do I want to usher in the new year? It's a good idea to write it down as well. What do I not want to do anymore? How do I want to show up? Because then, of course, the sun is going to shift into your 1st house, which is all about you. And Pluto arrived there on the 19th of November for good this time, Aquarius, for the next 20 years. So quite an intense period for you at the end of 2024 and going into the new year. There's going to be another new moon this month on the 30th and is going to be in Capricorn. So again, ushering in intentions, things we want to bring in or take with us into the new year, pertaining very much to our inner self. So it could be a practice. Maybe you're saying, I want to meditate every day, or I'm going to be using another practice on a daily or weekly or monthly basis. It could be a habit you want to leave behind. The 12th can often be our inner pattern. So, a way of seeing things or a way of doing things that you're almost automatically doing that you don't want to do anymore in the coming year. Just before that, and I'm going to backtrack a little bit, and then I'm going to be done with the moon because the moon is doing a lot of things this month. On the 15th, the moon is going to be full across in your 5th house, everything to do with your creativity. Romantic partners, if that's your case, children, be they your children or someone else's children. It's also what we do for fun. There's always an idea of a lot of individual self-expression with the 5th house. Perhaps what you have been reviewing here, the moon across, this is always a question of finding balance, right? Where this is like, gotta be me type of thing house. And this is the idea of the group and conformity to the group. So very much perhaps highlighting the moon, what might bring about an ending or a culmination of some sort. Again, always with this idea of finding balance. Maybe there's something that is going to change because of group pressure, or maybe, group influence. And it could be a good thing. Maybe there's something going on with the group that is just, you really feel it's cramping your style, and there's something you want to move away from or end in that aspect as well. Let's talk a little bit about Mars, and then we'll finish up with Venus. Always more pleasant to finish up with Venus. Mars is going to station retrograde on the 6th of December in Leo, but is going to move back into Cancer during this retrograde. So let me give you the dates first. Stations retrograde on the 6th of December, so very intense day. Of course, when a planet stations retrograde or direct, moves back into Cancer on the 6th of January, stations direct on the 23rd of February, but is still in Cancer until March and still picking up speed. Mars retrograde story, very, very frustrating energy. This is going to take place in your seventh house of partnerships, life partner, business partner, exes, the competition, and also your area of work, be it paid or unpaid, and your physical health. Very much a frustrating energy because Mars wants to go ahead and do something, but now things are going backwards. Things are going on a loop, a subject that, or something you've been working on or something you want to do that can just disappear completely, seem to wane, just fizzle out. It feels sometimes as if we're losing, my goodness, I'm tripping over my words. It feels as if we are losing our motivation. Remember, Mars is a lot of energy and motivation, but we seem to lose it with Mars retrograde. Use this energy to plan and review, to assess, to prepare. As much as that's not something Mars likes to do, that's probably the only way to deal with this Mars retrograde, because whatever you're going to put your energy towards is probably going to backtrack anyway, or just sort of, end at a dead end. Added to that, and yes, why not? Mars on his retrograde is going to oppose Pluto across, I'm seeing that right, in Aquarius, in your sign. So first house, seventh house opposition, partnerships, and self. Let me give you the dates for that as well. From December 25th to January 6th, exact on the 1st of January, a bit of a repeat how Mars and Pluto opposed at the start of November. Again, and I did do a whole video on that, so you can refer to that if you want to really understand what the energy is. But basically, God of war, God of the underworld, no one is backing down, no one is giving up, can make Mars very, very confrontational. Pluto, of course, is just going to dig his heels in and not move because he is all about power and control. I wrote choose your battles, then I wrote avoid them completely. There's very much the idea of wasting our energy if we take something on, because Mars energy is misdirected with the retrograde. So Mars can't really take anything on well. It leaves us feeling powerless. It feels has us feeling as if nothing is working. And again, we get that feeling of frustration, but just know, Aquarius, this is the energy. So don't get pulled into that going nowhere loop of opposition back and forth, especially something, concerning a partner or a partnership, even a rival, an ex, we might be really wanting to, and this is the Mars energy, just, set them right, or confront them, or, settle it once and for all, and not back down and not let them step on our toes. But again, it's going to be this long dragged out fight because it's taking place, during this period of opposition when no one is going to give an inch for sure. Venus moves into your sign. Oh, so much better, Aquarius. Venus moves into your sign on the 7th, is going to stay there into the start of January. Wonderful energy, makes us charming, makes us attractive. This is going to happen before this Pluto-Mars opposition. So again, do ride out this good energy. Don't let this Pluto-Mars opposition just, take it all apart type of thing. But very much that idea. This is a great time to get aesthetic work done. If you're thinking of changing up your look, changing your makeup, changing your hair, getting photos taken, wonderful when Venus is in our sign. Just know Venus is also going to conjunct Pluto upon her arrival. Very, very briefly though, from the 7th to the 10th of December, really exact on the 7th, 8th upon her arrival. This makes, as much as Venus makes us charming, others are drawn to us very much. This creates a lot of intensity in those relationships. Very, very deep desire for bonding in a melding way, in a very, very tight, exploring the depths of the tie to the other in a very, very deep way. It can even be exploring, the dark side of relationships, the issues of power and control. It can even be in a sexual aspect. The downside of this is that Venus can sometimes resort to manipulation and power plays through these ties. Venus conjunct Pluto, we can really, really see behind the facade. So, people are drawn to you, you're charming, but you can almost be that bewitching charming that is going to really see what is going on, can really try or explore exerting how much power and control you can have with others through these ties. If you're not in a partnership, or if we're talking more romantic encounters, they can be unusually intense. You can have that magnetic attraction in terms of being drawn to someone, even being drawn to someone with an aura of danger, or maybe again, because Venus is in your sign, that is the type of person that is going to start gravitating around you. This can be a person, if this results in a long-term relationship, that can have a transformative effect in your life. Of course, we want it to be in a good way. So, do be careful of someone with a very, very dark side gravitating towards you. So, Aquarius, that is everything I wanted to tell you for December. Have a wonderful month. Take care. Hi, Pisces. Well, in December, at least until the 21st of December, you have the sun sitting in your 10th house, highest point in your chart. I call this, the golden light shining down upon you. You're in the spotlight. This is where we seek success. It can be job related. It can be in another area. It's also people who are above us on this ladder of success. So bosses, supervisors, higher ups in your organization. It can also be a government authority if that concerns you. It can be a parental authority as well. Always that idea with the 10th house of that, a pyramid of power and people who sit above us on that pyramid. The sun there, as I said, is putting you in a wonderful light with bosses and supervisors. You're going to think, well, I'm still the same person I was last month, but suddenly everybody sees you in a very, very favorable light. Not a bad thing if you have to make, a career move or a move in another area, as I said, that concerns your success. Great time to do so. At the same time, though, remember, Mercury is still retrograde. In fact, Mercury went retrograde on the 25th of November and is going to station direct on the 15th of December. So a day when Mercury exerts a lot of energy, as any planet does when stationing retrograde or direct, but is still in shadow until the 3rd of January. I did do a video on Mercury retrograde, and I have a previous one that really deep dives into how to use the Mercury retrograde. But just do know, whatever comes up, whatever you are offered, is probably not going to be completely set until the 3rd of January. So again, kind of, I keep saying a double-edged sword, because the sun is adding focus to that area, shining his great big beams down like a spotlight, where our attention is drawn there. We're assessing that, it's our yearly check-in, but at the same time, things are getting confused and going on a loop. And of course, to add to that, there's a new moon there on the 1st. So we can set intentions there, sort of like a yearly resolution, definitely. But again, don't become too discouraged if things don't seem to fall into place right away, because Mercury is wreaking havoc with his crazy retrograde. I say crazy because Mercury retrogrades 3 times a year, is the fastest, has the quickest cycle around the sun, only 88 days. So, and it's the trickster of the zodiac. So, just sort of does crazy things and causes crazy mix-ups. The only trick is to, if we have an agreement, because Mercury rules communication, or somebody says something, not really assume that means it's cast in stone, because, as I said, things can really change up. And that's how Mercury sort of plays tricks on us. It's like, yeah, you thought that was a done deal. Well, no, maybe not, type of thing. Let me continue to talk. Let's talk about the moon. Let's go right away to the full moon, and then we'll backtrack and talk about Venus and Mars. There's a full moon on the 15th in Gemini, in your 4th house. Again, this brings an opposition between sun and moon. As much as, there was the possibility of setting an intention with the new moon on the 1st, now the moon is highlighting something in your 4th house of home and family, maybe bringing something to culmination, ending, not necessarily ending in terms of not doing that anymore, but it can also be in, settling it once and for all. That's where we get that idea of a culmination. This, of course, is where we're out seeking success, the demands made on our time and energy there, and where we are required on the home front in terms of family. It's also where we live. It's also, a homeland, state, province. So maybe the demands here, obviously demands here in the 10th house can be affecting something here. Maybe you're not home as much. Maybe a lot of demands are being made on your time. Maybe something to do with success is going to bring about a move eventually of some sort. So again, that back and forth, that idea of trying to find balance. On the 21st, the sun moves into your 11th house. Social circle, associations, anything with the word association, organization, club. So it can be, a club you belong to. It can be a group that you all have a common interest. I was saying, I think in another video, the Stargazers Club, or, I sometimes say yoga class, but the people you meet up with on sort of a regular basis, you all know each other. It's also our long-term goals. It's networking as well. So your focus is there. Perhaps what do you want to do with a long-term goal for the coming year? What needs to be changed? Do you still want to go ahead with it, type of thing? There's a new moon there on the 30th, 2 new moons this month. So perhaps you can set intentions there as well. Maybe there's a group you want to get together with more often. Maybe there's a group you want to accede to. Maybe there's things you want to do on a regular basis in order to further a long-term goal. Mars is also going to station retrograde on the 6th of December in Leo, but this is going to be split between Leo and Cancer. So let me give you the dates. Mars stations retrograde on December 6th, a lot of intensity again as a planet is stationing retrograde. Moves into Cancer on January 6th, goes direct on February 23rd in Cancer, and is still in Cancer until March, still slow, still catching up. So this retrograde will concern your 6th house of work, workplace, workload, other jobs and duties you have. It concerns your physical health as well. And then we'll slide into Cancer, which is about your creativity, everything to do with children, be they your children, someone else's children, pregnancy, adoption. It is also what we do for fun. So hobbies, pleasure pursuits, entertainment activities. It's also romance as well. Mars retrograde is not easy. Thank goodness Mars only does this every 2 years because it's a frustrating energy. Mars wants to go forward and wants to go forward fast and reach a goal and get things done. But now he's backing up. He's going in circles. So we can feel that perhaps topics that were concerning us in this house, or that we were thinking about or we had ideas for, are waning, or they're fizzling out, and we seem to be losing motivation. If there's something you wanted to do work related, maybe just the motivation isn't there anymore. You can't, it's that feeling like we can't get it together type of thing. Do use this energy to plan and review, assess things, be prepared when Mars moves ahead again. Mars doesn't really like sitting still and planning, but it is pretty much the only way to deal with Mars, going retrograde. The more you push against, the more you try to force things, it just almost becomes wasted energy because it's not going to work out. It's often like pushing up against a wall. And if that wasn't enough, of course, Mars is going to oppose Pluto again. Remember, Mars did this end of October, beginning of November. I did do a video on that, and if you want to really understand the energy, you can watch that, and I will link it below. But this is sort of a repeat with now Mars on the retrograde, because now he's backing up, so he's going over those same degrees and opposing Pluto. Again, the idea of a power struggle, right? Nobody's backing down. We have the god of war facing the god of the underworld. So Mars is like, no, I'm going to win at all costs. And Pluto is, no, I'm all about power and control, and I'm not going to give an inch. I wrote, choose your battles. I would say avoid them completely. There's an idea of really, really squandering energy because Mars is misdirected with the retrograde. And again, we can't win. This is just going to be some long, drawn out conflict. Feeling of frustration, feeling powerless, feeling like nothing is advancing, nothing is working. But just know this is the energy. Don't get pulled into this. And interestingly, it is between your 6th house, as we said, workplace, workload, where we are of service to others, where we have duties and responsibilities. It's our physical health. It's also our pets, employees, if you have them. This is our inner world, our private world. It is all those inner practices. So again, very much finding balance between, where we're showing up, where we're being asked to work, and where we're needed, and where we have duties to perform, and, our inner self, the time we need for self, the time we just need to get in touch with ourselves. Always, also perhaps, who we are on the inside, does that correspond with what we're doing out here? Are we, mentally depleted, physically depleted? Is our health suffering from our work? Is it affecting us mentally? It's several possibilities, but don't try to fight it. Don't try to make it right, I think is what I'm trying to say, because there's not really too much of an issue here. But again, do assess what is going on. And when Mars finally comes out, of course, that opposition won't last that long. So when Mars finally comes out of that opposition, still on retrograde though, you might have a better idea of what's going on. But again, Mars still, on that loop. So don't get pulled into anything, I think is the watch phrase for this. I'll just repeat the dates because I don't think I mentioned them. From December 25th to January 6th is the opposition between Mars and Pluto, and of course exact on January 1st. So what a great way to start the year. Venus, let's end with Venus, so much more gentle. Venus moves into your 12th house, Pisces, on the 7th of December, stays there into January. I always say Venus in the 12th is self-care. So looking at our inner self, looking at what really has us fearful, what we really worry about, where our self-doubts are, but very much with an approach of kindness. So what do we have to work on? What do we have to change? Conjunct Pluto upon arrival from about the 7th to the 10th, but really exact on the 7th, can have you very intensely examining where these patterns are. And because Venus relates to relationships, you might be examining the intensity of relationships that had an impact on you. Because this is such a private area, it doesn't usually bring people in, or it doesn't have Venus really reaching out to create ties, unless you choose to help someone help you do this work, like a therapist, for example. But there's that idea of examining where ties have had an impact on our inner patterns, or on, how we show up, sort of that preconditioning or that outlook. I always say that template we have that colors how we approach things and how we even expect them to play out. And if we have a preconceived expectation of how they're going to play out, often they do play out like that. It's the self-fulfilling prophecy. Even if it's negative, there's a way in which it reassures us, because we say, well, I knew it was going to turn out like that, and it did turn out like that. So, everything's fine in the world, as opposed to it being, so much better than what we expected. It's funny how, and I'm digressing here, Pisces, but this is the house related to your sign. So bear with me. I think you'll get me. But, there's that idea of maybe it's going to turn out really good. But when we think about it, sometimes we're afraid if we can handle really, really good. Or, I think it's Marianne Williamson that says in Return to Love, maybe what we fear is we're really, really powerful beyond measure, and we can bring tremendously transformational and extraordinary things into our lives. And that's really what scares us. That it didn't happen, negative outcome is sometimes more easy to take than what could be really great. Anyway, that was my spiel, Pisces. Sorry about that, but that is what Venus conjunct Pluto could have you doing, really examining the conditioning of certain relationships that have given you those preconceived patterns, and might push you to modify those relationships in your surroundings or on the outside. So Pisces, that is everything I wanted to tell you for December. Have a wonderful, wonderful month. Take care. Hi, Aries. Well, your December astrology has the sun, a new moon, and Mercury on his retrograde in your 9th house. Everything to do with what is foreign to us, what expands our horizons, our life outlook. The 9th house is all those studies related to that. So, the metaphysical, higher education, college, university. It is medicine, it's the law, it is organized religion, that idea of ideology, dogma, it's propaganda, it is widespread mass media, the internet, the web, it is publishing as well by the same token. So the sun adding focus there, this is the time of year, the sun will be there until the 21st, where you really want to learn about other life outlooks, or you really want to explore the philosophical or the metaphysical. This is where we ask ourselves the big life questions. What are we here for? What is it all about, type of thing. Is there more than just what is going on around me and, the daily grind type of thing. Mercury there, I did do a video on the Mercury retrograde, so I won't dive too deeply into that. But Mercury is there mixing things up, backtracking. So, whatever you're exploring, you could be changing your mind about, do know that. At the same time, Mercury also mixes things up in a very real and practical level. So if you are traveling, because this is also long distance travel, in terms of time, in terms of distance, even travel in the mind, in terms of really exploring different ways of thinking, do know Mercury can mix that up as well. So if you are traveling, check times, check dates. If you're planning travel, do make sure everything is really clear. Do make sure you follow up, because things can get mixed up or can get changed up. Same thing applies if you are thinking of taking college or university courses. Make sure documents are received. Make sure you mail them on time. Check times and dates. Don't rely on your memory, because again, things can get mixed up there as well. Mercury comes out of retrograde on the 15th of December, but still remains in post-retrograde shadow until the 3rd of January. So things still, are on that getting mixed up loop. Kind of, I keep saying a double-edged sword, because the sun is bringing your focus there and, having you reflect on these topics, but at the same time, Mercury is sort of mixing things up. And then, of course, there's a new moon there on the 1st. So it can be a good time to usher in a new intention in relation to that house. Maybe you want to take college classes, university classes. Maybe you want to travel. Maybe you want to read up more on the philosophical, on the metaphysical. Explore a new religious practice, explore a new form of spirituality. Of course, at the same time, just remember, until the start of January, things are getting sort of backtracking and not clear. So whatever comes up, do know you can change your mind, you can change things up, or things might be changed up for you. Something Mercury loves to do. Let me continue with the new moon, since we're talking about the sun and the moon and Mercury. And of course, the moon's going to be two new moons this month and a full moon. So let's talk right away about the full moon. That is on the 15th in your 3rd house of communications. This is the classic opposition, of course, full moon, sun, moon opposition between what is familiar to us, our siblings, our neighbors, other relatives, cousins, our neighborhood, our local jaunts around town, those people we see on a regular, our familiar faces, people we see on a regular basis, and whatever is foreign and different. So the moon might be highlighting something here, again, tying in with this, part of the same conversation, highlighting something, bringing something to closure in terms of settling it once and for all. I'll give you one example. This could be something like, I want to go away to study, or I want to take a trip somewhere for, quite an extended period of time. But on the home front, people aren't necessarily encouraging, or I'm sort of hesitant to leave my familiar surroundings. So culmination, not always in terms of ending with a full moon, but just sort of that settling it once and for all. Okay, I'm going to do this thing, or no, I'm going to put it off. But always that classic idea of going away, leaving what's familiar, and facing the fact that sometimes we change too when we explore things that are different, and we're not exactly the same person we were before. By the 21st, the sun has shifted into your 10th house. And I'm going to end with the sun and the moon, and then we'll move on to Venus and Mars, but has shifted into your 10th house, highest point in your chart, just shining wonderful beams down upon you, Aries. This is the ladder of success, where we seek success, be it work related or not. It can be in terms of career. It might be somewhere else. It is people who outrank us there. It is other authority figures like parental authority or government authority. This puts you in a super great light. And I was saying in Pisces video, you're thinking, well, I'm the same person I was last month. I'm showing up in the same way and doing the same work. But, suddenly you're seen as, the I'll say employee of the month, or, the golden employee, the person that, everybody wants to go to, or you're just in this really, really favorable light, especially in the eyes of your higher ups. So this is a great time to ask for something in relation to success. If there's a coveted account of some sort, or performing in a certain venue is your marker of success. The idea of status, awards, achievements, recognition, if you want recognition, or if there's an award perhaps you want to put your candidacy in for, this is also a good time to do that as well. And of course, on the 30th, a new moon there also. So maybe making a resolution in this area as well, something you want to do to further your career or your success. Let's talk about Mars, and then we'll end with Venus. That'll be much more pleasant than doing the opposite. Mars is your ruler, Aries, and Mars will station retrograde on the 6th of December, exerting a lot of energy. Whenever a planet stations retrograde or direct, they exert even more energy. Beginning in Leo on the 6th of December, moving back into Cancer, so still retrograde on the 6th of January, going direct on the 23rd of February. So again, exerting energy there. Still in Cancer until March, but and moving ahead, but still very slowly. So you will feel this more than the other signs, except for Scorpio, for whom Mars is the traditional ruler. A lot of feeling of energy going on a loop of frustration. Mars is a planet that likes to move forward, likes to go fast, likes to focus on a goal. This very much exemplifies your energy, Aries. Very self-focused. We sometimes say Aries is individualistic. There's no, good sign or bad sign. It is good to not be worried about what everybody else is doing. It's not a bad energy at all. Very, very focused on what you want to achieve. But that feeling of everything just coming up against a wall, of that energy being squandered and not really going in that focused way to where you want to apply it. This is romantic ties, it is sex, it is creative pursuits, everything to do with children, be they your children or other significant children in your life. If you work with people of a younger generation, that can also be a part of the 5th house. It is what we do for fun and entertainment, very much a marker of our individual self. So, how do we approach romance? Do we have children? Don't we have children? How do we approach children, child rearing? How do we express ourselves creatively? What do we like to do for fun? Just remember with this retrograde, the best thing to do is plan, review, assess, and be prepared for when Mars is direct and out of shadow. Not something Mars likes to do. Mars wants to do something, doesn't want to sit around preparing and paying attention to details. But if you keep pushing ahead, you're going to see that whatever you're trying to do is, it's going to fizzle out, or it's going to wane, or maybe something you're trying to do is just going to disappear completely. We can even ourselves lose motivation as Mars, is backing up and going on this loop. So it's not being applied and working as we want it to work anyway. When Mars moves into Cancer, this is your 4th house of home and family, family of origin, family of choice. It is also the place you live. So the building, be it a house, a flat. Again, that feeling of things going on a loop. Maybe there's a renovation project, but that's just not going ahead. Maybe there's something in terms of, family dynamics, really, really hard to address. Mars's energy can get skewed or misdirected as well on a retrograde. So, you want to address something, you want to make it work, but it's the wrong battle, or you're going to be confrontational when perhaps it wasn't required, and it might be the wrong target. So you get that idea of things, of Mars's energy just not being properly focused. Added onto that, of course, Mars is going to oppose Pluto, a repeat of what happened end of October, beginning of November, when Mars was still direct. Again, we hear astrologers saying, fight to the end. No one is backing down. Mars, god of war, Pluto, god of the underworld. Mars, I'm going to win at all costs. I'm the god of war. Pluto, I'm not going to back down. I'm god of the underworld. I'm all about power and control. I would be tempted to say choose your battles, but then I wrote in my notes, just avoid them completely. Really, that idea of wasted energy as Mars is misdirected with the retrograde. Mars can't take anything on well, and we don't even want to take anything on because this is just going to be, that dragged out conflict that just isn't going to end. So, that idea of settling it is just not going to be there. So whatever it is, don't get pulled into it. As I said, the fifth house, very much the idea of our personal self-expression. 11th house, groups and organizations you belong to, long-term goals, long-term projects, any club or association. It is networking as well. Pluto is really going to have you transforming that area in your life. And I did do a whole video, a whole Pluto. It is a whole Pluto, a whole video on Pluto and Aquarius. But sometimes the idea of conformity of the group as well. And here, where I got to be me type of thing, and this back and forth. I would say just, take notes, quietly take notes in a corner. Something I don't see Mars doing at all. Something I don't really see you doing either, Aries. But just be prepared when Mars is going forward again to use that energy wisely. This is just really too much conflict, long-lasting things won't get settled, and it'll just be a waste of your time and your energy. Let's end with Venus. So much more pleasant. Venus arrives in your 11th house on the 7th. Venus will conjunct Pluto. Venus in your 11th, remember again, this is social circle, so definite possibility of romance with someone who you meet through an organization or maybe through a circle of friends, a friend that becomes something more, or a friend that is introduced, a romantic partner, potential that is introduced through a friend. It is just more warm, fuzzy ties, moments perhaps with your social circle. Again, Venus conjunct Pluto. Remember, Pluto being all about power and control. There's that idea of, and this, by the way, starts on the 7th to the 10th of December upon Venus's arrival, exact on the 7th. But there's an idea with Venus conjunct Pluto of a need not only for connection, which is what Venus is about, but on a very intense, deep level, which is that Plutonian energy. Really, really want to explore ties on a deep level, want to explore what's below the surface. There can be a really powerful desire to, strengthen those ties in a bonding and melding way. Even, if we're talking perhaps about romantic encounters, exploring the dark side of power and control, even in terms of sexuality. The downside of Venus is she can resort to manipulation and power plays through these ties. Remember, Venus conjunct Pluto. Pluto can see very much, what is going on below the surface. Pluto is related to secrets as well. So, you might discover some secrets between or within the group or within the organization. But Venus in her intensity to explore these ties can also be exploring like where the control lies and how much power I have, and can on the downside resort to even manipulation through these ties. Will you do this for me? Or if you're really my friend, that's a really awful manipulative way, but if you're really my friend, you will do this for me type of thing. A romance begun or romance can become unusually intense. So if this is, the friendship that becomes more than the friendship, there's this idea of magnetic attraction, almost inexplainable magnetic attraction that will draw us to someone. And perhaps something with, almost an aura of danger or an aura of secrecy. Maybe there's a secret romance developing with someone within this group of friends you don't want anyone to know about. If it does last, this is a person that can have a transformative effect in your life, but your relationship will be definitely marked by a lot of intensity. We want that transformative effect to be in a good way. We don't want to have someone with a very, very dark side or a dangerous side. As I said, that might be explored, but we want someone that has a good transformative effect. So do know that it is not a long-lasting aspect at all, but it is marked by a lot of intensity. Then, of course, Venus will continue in your 11th house, forging, those wonderful ties or just deepening ties within the social circle. Could be romantic encounters as well. And we'll do that to the start of January. So Aries, that is everything I wanted to tell you for December. Have a wonderful month. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Hi Taurus, welcome to your December astrology. Let's start with the sun, the moon, and Mercury sitting in your 8th house. This is wealth you benefit from through a partner. It is shared property, or that part of the partner's wealth that is shared, be it business partner or life partner. It includes inheritances, debt, loans, mortgages, financing of some sort. The sun is there until the 21st. So this is definitely your yearly check-in. Your focus is on that. How much debt am I carrying? Does that need to be changed? Can I help my partner increase their wealth, for example? Am I trying to contract a loan or a mortgage? What can be done on that level? It can be something that, when the sun arrives there and adds energy and focus, it's as if suddenly it really, really comes into view, and we're really going to start thinking about acting on it. There is a new moon there on the 1st. So this can be ushering in new intentions for the coming year. It can be in relation, of course, or it should be in relation to the 8th house. It might be a way of reducing your debt, for example. It might be something you are going to do to help a partner increase their wealth. There's many examples of this, but perhaps your partner, does something online and you're going to help with that, or perhaps you're going to take care more of their social media, for example, if that is something that pertains to their business or pertains to how they increase their income. Just know Mercury, of course, is still retrograde, will only station direct on the 15th of December, but continues in shadow until the very start of January. So Mercury really wreaks havoc with agreements, contracts, negotiations. Mercury is related to commerce, all those things that are based on communication. And I find likes to mix up numbers. So if, this is a mortgage, ideally, an astrologer would tell you, an astrologer would hold off until after the 3rd of January before signing anything. If you have to go ahead, make sure, everything is written down. You're as clear as possible on the details, and do know it could backtrack anyway. Even if this is an agreement with a partner, perhaps to the divvying up of wealth, maybe a business partner, how are we splitting up the profits, for example? Or it can be, when we say a business partner, someone you do business with on a regular basis and it is mutually beneficial. So discussing something like a retainer, for example. Again, that can change up, someone will change their mind or a detail will be changed. Nothing is set until the 3rd of January. Let's talk right away about the full moon that is going to take place in Gemini, in your 2nd house of wealth and income, the house related to your sign Taurus. That is on the 15th. Same day, Mercury stations direct. So that's going to be interesting. Planets exert a lot of energy when they station retrograde or direct. So sun-moon opposition, again, the moon highlights something, brings something to culmination. I've been saying in the other videos, an ending of some sort, or maybe just a settling of it once and for all. This, of course, is the opposition between money you've borrowed, money you share, property you share, wealth you share, and your money, your income, your valuables, the money you make, the money you invest, the money you save. Maybe there's a settling of some sort. Maybe something that was begun here is going to have repercussions here because how much money am I putting into the business, or how much of my money is going to pay off debt? If I do take out this mortgage, how much is it going to cost of my weekly or monthly salary, for example? So again, just a question of finding balance between these two areas. On the 21st, the sun moves into your 9th house. And of course, there's going to be a new moon there on the 30th. 9th house is long distance travel, be it in terms of time or distance, travel in the mind. So really exploring new ways of thinking, new ways of seeing the world, philosophical concepts really has an impact on our life outlook. And it's also related to organized religion, publishing, the media, the web, idea of, what is foreign, what is different. You can be reading up much more on different philosophical outlooks. You can be exploring the metaphysical. Maybe you're thinking of taking university classes, college level classes. Maybe you're planning a long distance trip, or maybe you're planning to go away for a very, very long time. It doesn't necessarily have to be far, but just, really immersing yourself in another area. There's that idea of just really wanting to learn about different ways of seeing things. Maybe, you're exploring a new spiritual practice or a new religion also. The new moon there is a really good time, again, to set intentions in that area. If you want to take that trip, if you want to take classes, maybe it's a publishing project you have as well. So you're going to take steps, you're ushering in that new habit, that new intention to take steps to make that happen. I want to talk about Mars because Mars is going to be doing a lot of stuff. And then we're going to finish with lovely Venus. And I think I'm going to do that for all the signs because so much more pleasant to finish with Venus, your ruler, by the way, than with Mars, who is retrograde. Nothing wrong with Mars. Nothing. Remember, no good or bad in astrology, just different energies. But Mars is retrograde, so he's having a bit of a tough time. Mars stations retrograde on the 6th of December. Retrograde continues back into Cancer on the 6th of January, goes direct on the 23rd of February, but is still in Cancer into March because he's going slowly and picking up speed and catching up to where he was before. Fourth house, home and family, family of origin, family of choice, the building you live in. So that idea of real estate, it's our home, our homeland, where we feel at home, province, state, region. We can live in one place, but say, when I go there, I really feel at home. Third house, all our communications, written and spoken. What is familiar to us? It is siblings, cousins, other relatives, neighbors, our neighborhood, our short trips around town or in our area. It has to do with grade school, high school education as well, technical learning as well. The third house is not only our communication, but it's also our inner dialogue, how we express ourselves and our thought pattern. This is the most private part of our chart. So do know, Taurus, Mercury is going to be retrograding in that area. The idea of intimacy, this is only people really close to us who see us, in these areas. Also a foundational aspect, what goes on here, especially in terms of home and family patterns or traditions, sort of is a foundation for the rest of our life. Now, Mars retrograde, Mars has a lot of energy, but retrograde, that energy is just going in circles. It has trouble focusing. Mars wants to reach a goal, but things just, really aren't working out. Topics in relation to that house can seem, to disappear from view, and they will sort of go out of focus because Mars is going to leave your fourth and move into your third, and then leave the third and go back into the fourth. They'll wane. It feels as if, we don't have any energy or motivation anymore. They'll seem to, fizzle out. Do use this energy to review, assess, prepare for when Mars goes forward again. Because Mars's energy goes on a loop, it's as if we have this feeling of, I want to do something, but it just doesn't come to culmination, or, it comes up against a wall. It's like hitting a wall. I often use that term when I talk about Mars retrograde. Things sort of get put by the wayside. So, I'm going to do this home redesign project or this home renovation project. And the next thing you know, the paint can is sort of sitting in a corner and the tools have sort of been piled in a corner. It's just, it fizzles out, no more motivation type of thing. So quite frustrating energy at times. But if we know what to expect, at least, we're not pulled into it and we're not squandering our energy. Now, if that wasn't enough, of course, Mars is going to oppose Pluto, sort of doing a repeat of what we saw end of October and start of November. This is going to be from December 25th to January 6th, but exact on the 1st of January. So ushering in the new year with an exact Mars-Pluto opposition. Again, really an idea of power struggle, no one backing down. Mars wants to win at all costs, was the god of war. Pluto all about power and control. Classic opposition between, again, home and family, private, intimate area of our chart. Only people who know us very, very well, are concerned by the fourth house. 10th house, where we're out in the world, where we're seeking success, highest point in our chart, right? Where we are most visible to others. This can be the classic opposition between, where we're seeking success and where we're needed on the home front, or what our duties and responsibilities are here, what has to be done here, and where we want to put our energy over here. So again, my best advice, Taurus, is don't get caught up in this. Pluto is going to be transformative energy over the next 20 years in your area of success, even, transforming what success looks like to you. But during this period of opposition, again, we have Mars, wanting to draw our energy here, having us focus on something here, standing up perhaps for family members or something with our home, and Pluto here just saying, control issues and transformation and power issues in terms of success. Again, neither will back down. And it is just, I wrote choose your battles, but then of course I wrote just avoid completely, because there's a lot of just wasted energy if we get caught up with this. This is the, just dragged out conflict. Whatever you embark in is not going to get settled. No matter how hard you try, it's just going to drag and drag and drag. It can leave you definitely feeling powerless. It feels like, you're not settling anything, nothing is working out, but that's just the energy. Don't get pulled into this. Take notes, assess, and after the energy has died down, you'll be ready to move. I'll say you'll be ready to move forward again, but just remember Mars continues to be retrograde. So don't get pulled into that, no matter how intense it can be or how tempted you are. Finally, let's finish with lovely Venus, your ruler, Taurus. Venus moves into your 10th house again, that area of success, on the 7th, very, very early on the 7th at 1:13 a.m. In case you're interested in the details, that's Eastern Standard Time, Eastern Daylight Time. This, of course, again, people who outrank us on this ladder of success, supervisors, people in authority. It could be even government authority in a general way. It can be parental authority. Venus loves to forge ties. If you want to ask for something that is a marker of success, maybe you want your name shortlisted for an award of some sort. Maybe there's a coveted account at work, that would really be a marker of success. Maybe there's a promotion as well. People want to enter into a relationship with us. People want to help us. Venus is very, very charming. So easy to get people on board, even if it's in another area. Do the asking. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. In terms of interaction, also, Venus very, very diplomatic, can even mark a romance with someone higher up than you in the workplace, a boss or a supervisor, for example. But Venus will conjunct Pluto upon her arrival. This is from the 7th to the 10th. It's conjunction, but exact on the 7th when Venus arrives. This does mark the desire for deep connection and intensity in relationships. It could be a romantic relationship, as I said, perhaps with someone higher up, or just people connected to your success. There's an idea of really wanting to strengthen the bond in a very, very intense way. So again, it doesn't have to be romantic, but it can be with that person that is above you on the ladder of success, or is instrumental to your success. Even perhaps exploring, the issues of power and control there. So you might be really seeing how much power and control you exert, or perhaps this person above you is all powerful and all controlling, depending on what type of career environment you're in, or again, whatever other area you're looking for success. Remember, this is the idea of status, awards, achievements as well. So again, we talk about career a lot, but it could be in another area where you want to be recognized. Just do know, on the downside, Venus can resort to manipulation, to power plays. Really, Venus is going to explore both the good and the bad of these ties in a very intense way. The intensity comes from Pluto. The desire for control comes from Pluto. So it'll be, interesting. It's sort of that classic. And why am I always thinking of, something related to film? I don't know. I think it's because I watched way too much TV as a child. But, and sometimes this is one of those police movies, but in another, or lawyers, a lawyer firm type series, but that sort of rebel lawyer, or the one that really has sometimes an unorthodox way of doing things, or really pushes the limits type of thing, and their supervisor, their outranking them partner is like, you can't do this, you can't do that, pulling in the reins of power, but they're always sort of pushing the limits and really seeing what can I get away with, um, how much width and breadth can I take? How much can I do things, within this relationship without completely destroying the relationship and having them not be on your side anymore. But you sort of get the idea of what Venus wants to do there. Do you know, in terms of a romantic connection, if this does come about, it is a romantic connection that is unusually intense. That idea of magnetic attraction, again, because this Plutonian influence is there. Sometimes attracted to something with an aura, someone or the situation with an aura of danger, is sometimes secretive, which brings that aura of danger. Maybe it's a connection that you don't want anybody else to know about, or would not be a good idea if people know about. Let me go back to my lawyer series. You're sleeping with a senior partner, and wow, that would just really be not seen well by everybody else, type of thing. Again, why am I so much in with it? It's as if I watch so much TV all the time, and I don't, but I always sometimes visualize these things as I'm talking about them, and it sort of comes up in that pattern. Taurus, who knows? Who knows? Maybe you can relate. I'm a Taurus sun, but again, you get that idea of danger or secrecy. It can be someone that has a very transformative effect on our life, because Pluto is all about transformation, but we want it to be in a good way. So beware of being drawn to something with a dark side, or someone with a dark side that is just going to perhaps wind up costing you in the long term. And Taurus, that was my spiel for Venus and Pluto. So lovely, Taurus. That is everything I wanted to tell you for December. Have a wonderful month. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Hi, Gemini. Welcome to your December astrology. There's a lot going on in your 7th house of partnerships. So let's begin there. That's actually where I've been beginning for all signs, but especially interesting for you because it is in your 7th house that sits across from you. So always that idea of transformative effect back and forth. 7th house is partnership. So a life partner, business partner. Remember, that doesn't mean you have to be in business, but it's someone you do business with on a regular basis that is beneficial for both of you. So, sometimes like an accountant or a lawyer, for example, it is rivals, and the competition may be in business in as much as they are significant for us. So there's very much that idea of one-on-one and, people who have impact on us. It is excess as well. We also find excess there, of course, because we talk about partners. So the sun is there until the 21st. It's your yearly check-in. What do you want to change? What do you want to maybe not change? Maybe everything is going fine. It's like your yearly check-in, but your focus is really going to be on your partnerships, or, something with an ex that needs to be settled. Maybe you have rivals and competition in business. You really want to focus on that, address that, see how, you can get a leg up, I think is the expression, or you can get ahead in a certain way. It can be in another area as well. There's a new moon. Let me start with the moon. There's a new moon there on the 1st. So good time to set intentions. It can be, again, with a life partner. You're going to do date night once a month, or you're going to show up in a certain way, with an ex that is going to just make the interaction more harmonious. For example, many, many examples, but those are a few that I can think of. It's like setting an intention or setting a resolution, something we want to do from now on, and really good to coordinate that area of our lives with where the new moon is. So, very much a good time to set intentions in terms of 7th house topics. That's what I wanted to say. Just remember, yes, caveat, Mercury is still retrograde there until the 15th and is not completely out of post-retrograde shadow until the 3rd of January. So things are still going to get mixed up. Maybe you're discussing something with a partner do know they'll misunderstand. They'll say you aren't clear. It's like we're not really out of the woods until the 3rd of January. If this involves agreeing on something, just be ready to know that it might backtrack. Someone is going to change up a detail. You know, things aren't really cast in stone until Mercury is completely out of that cycle. Let's talk about the full moon on the 15th across in your sign, Gemini. So full moons in our sign, remember, full moons always make us more emotional. I've said that often in all my videos. Builds a little bit before, dies down a little bit after. Of course, sun moon opposition. So very much you and those partnerships, don't get overreactive. Don't get, pulled into anything on those few days before and after. Also, when it happens in our sign, it makes us even a little more emotionally needy. So we need a lot of nurturing. We need a little more caring, and we tend to express ourselves very emotionally about absolutely everything. So again, don't become, that dramatic diva, and just do know you might have those feelings that, emotionally we're just a little more sensitive, right? Just a time for a little more, emotional self-care type of thing, but don't let it get the best of you in terms of, you're overreacting emotionally or you're having outbursts. That's not, we often think it's what's going on, but it's actually, the energy of the full moon. I'm going to continue with these guys and wrap them up and then talk about Mars and Venus. So by the 21st, the sun moves into your 8th house. If this is others, this is other stuff. It is a partner's wealth, partner's money, be it, again, business partner or life partner. It is things like loans, mortgages, grants, that idea of, money we share with someone because we're loaning it. It is inheritances as well. It's also debt. So your focus is going to shift to there. How can you increase a partner's money? How can you minimize debt? Perhaps you're trying to get a mortgage. Your focus is going to shift to that. There's again a new moon, as I said, this time, can I fit everybody in? This time on the 30th. So again, a good time to usher in an intention there. Maybe you're going to take steps to get financing. This includes scholarships and grants as well. So maybe you're thinking, okay, I'm really going to take steps to achieving that. Maybe I'm going to take steps to reduce debt. It also, I think I mentioned, includes inheritances, includes legacies. Maybe there's something to settle on that front, and you're really going to say, okay, I have to start taking steps to settle that as well. It can also be, along with inheritance, the idea of legacy. So maybe you're looking at that in terms of your inheritance and your legacy also. Let's talk about Mars. Mars is going to retrograde on the 6th of December. It's something Mars only does once every 2 years. Thank goodness. It's going to keep moving backwards into Cancer, and it's going to arrive in Cancer on the 6th of January, station direct in Cancer on the 23rd of February, but still in Cancer and slow until March, not completely out of that shadow. 3rd house is all your communications, written and spoken. It includes our style of communication. It includes our inner dialogue and thought patterns. It's what's familiar to us. So siblings, cousins, other relatives, our neighborhood, our short trips around town, sort of the familiar places and faces. It is also grade school learning, high school learning, if that concerns you. It is good old-fashioned letter writing as a form of communication. It also includes the internet and the web, but in terms of our communication, so, where we show up online, for example, our online profiles and our online platforms. It's rumors and gossip. I think I mentioned that. And there was something else I wanted to say. Oh, it's also technical learning as well, if that concerns you. And I'm saying this because, of course, these are all areas affected by Mars retrograde. There's an idea, it can be very, very frustrating when Mars is retrograde because he's going in circles and he's going backwards, something Mars hates to do. He likes to go forward and reach a goal. So topics related to that house and the 3rd house of communications, also our 2nd house where Mars is going to retrograde too, which has to do with our wealth, our income, money we make, we save, we invest. the goal can disappear, or the energy, Mars's energy is just waning. We're not as motivated. We don't have that oomph Mars usually gives us. Things can just sort of fizzle out, right? We start doing something, but then it just sort of fizzles out, and we never complete it. Not something Mars usually does, because he really does like to reach a goal. Do use this energy to plan and review. If you write on a regular basis, for example, it's just not going to be happening as easily or as fast. If you teach grade school or high school, Mars's energy, maybe you had a lot of ideas of what you wanted to do, and now you feel it's dragging a little bit. Mars can be very confrontational, very assertive. That isn't going to work out well either, Gemini. It's going to be the wrong target, or it's just going to be misdirected in a certain way. Same thing, of course, for wealth and income as well. You might have projects or goals you want to reach, and it's as if it's not really happening. Remember, the third house is the house related to your sign, all about our communications. And of course, Mars will oppose Pluto, repeating what he did end of October, beginning of November, but this time retrograde. So idea of a power struggle, idea of no one backing down. Pluto isn't going to give an inch. He's all about power and control. Mars retrograde isn't in great shape, but he still is, going to fight to the end, because he is the god of war. So do avoid any conflict. There's really the idea of wasted energy, because this is, the knockdown, drag out conflict that just doesn't end and goes on and on. You can feel powerless. You can feel nothing is being settled, nothing is working out, but that's just the energy. Don't get pulled into that, because you're feeling that way, you're going to think, like, I'm really, really going to do something. Just try to wait until that energy is passed. And you're thinking, well, when is it? Let me give you the dates. It's from December 25th to January 6th. Remember, this isn't a door opening and closing, or a switch flicking on and off. So building before, dying down afterwards, but exact on January 1st. So let's usher in the year with a Mars-Pluto opposition. Goodness. And of course, as much as this is our familiar area, grade school, high school education, our communications, this is mass communication. This is publishing, the web, mass media, it's organized religion, anything that is different and really different life outlook, different, expanding our horizon. So long distance travel, as much as this is, our local jaunts around town, higher education. It's organized religion, so, different ideas, different spiritual pursuits as well. And again, the back and forth between what is different and what is familiar to us. Finally, let's end with Venus, a little more pleasant than poor Mars, that is retrograde. No good or bad here, but just remember that Mars on a retrograde, it's just much more difficult energy. Of course, Venus is direct. Venus will retrograde, I believe, in 2025. That will be a whole other story. So Venus moves into Aquarius, fellow air sign, again in this 9th house of what is different, what expands our life outlook, very much related to the metaphysical as well, philosophy, medicine, whatever gives us a different point of view. It's the big questions, I always say, with the 9th house. Venus arrives there, can mark a romance, for example, with someone who is from a very different background, someone who is foreign, or just from a very different cultural background, has a very different life outlook, perhaps from a different religion, for example, can just mark forging ties with someone that is different from us. Venus, of course, will conjunct Pluto upon the arrival, so from the 7th to the 10th. That can mark, Venus conjunct Pluto is an idea of exploring deep connection and intensity in relationships. It can be exploring deeply these ideas of the 9th house as well, how that affects us and has a transformative effect, because Pluto is all about transformation. If this is a relationship, be it romantic or otherwise, you meet someone who is different, a lot of exploring those ties in a very deep melding way, can even be perhaps exploring the dark side of things, the issues of power and control. The problem is, especially if this is a romance struck up during this time, is the idea of, Venus really resorting to manipulation or power plays. Any romance begun during a Venus-Pluto opposition has an element of secrecy, an element of danger, a lot of magnetic attraction, very, very intense attraction, and has power and control issues going on as well. So, and on the downside, they can be, in terms of really pushing the limits or seeing how much we can get away with. The person you meet during this time can have a deeply transformative effect on your life. That is the Pluto energy. But of course, I keep saying we want it in a good way. So don't be, not up to me to tell you what to do, but do beware of being attracted to someone with a very dark side, can be a very secretive dark side we don't see right away, or a relationship that has a very dark side to it. Then, of course, not a long aspect. Venus will be out of orb by the 10th and will be sailing smoothly along. So we continue to, forge these ties and explore ninth house topics. So, Gemini, that is everything I wanted to tell you for December. Have a wonderful, wonderful month. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Hi, Cancer. Welcome to your December astrology. Let's start off with Mars. We'll do things different for you because Mars is going to retrograde back into your sign. So first, let me give you the dates. Mars stations retrograde on December 6th in Leo. Moves back into your sign, Cancer, January 6th, still, of course, retrograde. Stations direct February 23rd, still in your sign, and is going to move ahead, still going to be in your sign until March, but moving ahead very, very slowly, coming out of his post-retrograde shadow, catching up to where he was before he stationed retrograde. So the 2 days where Mars exerts a lot of energy during this whole cycle is, of course, December 6th and then February 23rd. Whenever a planet stations retrograde or direct again, there is a lot of energy there. The second house is your wealth, your income, your money. It can be property you own, the idea of what is of value to you or what is valuable to you. First house, of course, is our outer image, our online profile, how others see us. So our outward appearance, be it in person or be it online or in another area, for example. Mars retrograde is just a lot of sometimes very frustrating energy. Mars is dynamic, wants to go forward, wants to reach a goal, but now, we're making him back up. We're making him sort of go in circles, go backwards and then go forwards again, but he's backwards from where he was. So it can definitely feel very, very frustrating. If you're trying to do something, one of these two areas, it's as if, Mars wants to do something there, but the motivation is sort of waning. Things are just fizzling out, or they can just disappear completely because remember, Mars is going to leave your area of wealth and income and then move into your first house, and then, of course, leave there and come back. So the best thing to do, plan, review whatever it is you want to do, pay attention to the details, try to get everything in order. Sometimes, beta test, ask others for their opinion. And then, just prepare as much as possible and be ready to go ahead once Mars is back to, his old self type of thing. Now, the other thing Mars is going to do, as if that isn't enough, is there's going to be a Mars-Pluto opposition like the one we had end of October into the start of November. So, God of war versus God of the underworld in Roman mythology. This, again, is an idea of a very intense power struggle. Let me give you the dates first, from December 25th to January 6th, exact on the 1st, starting off the new year with this opposition between Mars and Pluto. And again, remember, this isn't like a door opening or a switch flicking. It builds a little bit before and dies down somewhat afterwards. But again, definitely a power struggle. No one is backing down. Mars wants to win at all costs. Pluto is all about power and control. So, do choose your battles or actually avoid them completely. You're really going to waste energy. This is going to be conflict that is just completely dragged out. Can you leave us feeling powerless because nothing is working, it's not concluding, but that's just the energy. So try not to get pulled into anything. This is very much others' money, as much as this is our stuff, our money, our stuff in terms of what is valuable, like again, property, but land, but this is others. So, shared property, shared revenue, loans, inheritances, debt, wealth you benefit from through a partner or share with a partner. So, maybe Mars wants to do something, again, not a good idea while he's retrograde because he is sort of misguided, but, wants to do something to increase income or do something with the income. And then, Pluto with the power and control saying, well, can you really do that? It's going to bring you more debt. Can you handle that? Or, it could be in the form of whoever else is in this idea of wealth, business partner, life partner, your bank manager saying no, a lot of serious power and control idea with Pluto. So just very, very frustrating. Do wait until that passes because again, whatever you do try to take on is just going to seem to drag along forever and never really resolve itself. Now that that's out of the way, Cancer, let's talk about the Sun, the Moon, and Mercury, and then I'll probably finish up talking about Venus. So the Sun sits in your 6th house until the 21st of December. This, of course, is your work, your co-workers, your workload, your workplace. It's other jobs, even if you're not in paid employment. So we think very much the idea of service with the 6th house. So we think other responsibilities we have, other duties we have. It's our health as well, our physical health. It is our pets. It's also tenants and employees if you have those. And often we think, well, I don't own a business, I don't have employees. But if you employ someone, if you employ housekeeping, for example, or if you employ a gardener, for example, that all falls under the purview of the 6th house. The Sun has your attention going there. This is your yearly evaluation. Maybe you're thinking, do I like my job? Do I want to change my job? Is everything going fine? Do I need to make, a little, some changes to a few details? Do I need to switch things up? At the same time, Mercury retrograde there, and I did do a video on that, really mixing things up, mixing up communications. There's going to be misunderstandings between coworkers or other people involved in your workplace. Could be, another branch, other clients, for example. Mercury also wreaks havoc with numbers because Mercury relates to communication. There's a lot of idea with agreement. So maybe, you're going to agree on something, a project you have at work, or an account you have at work, but then things are going to get switched up. Now, remember, Mercury is already in retrograde. He's been in retrograde since the 25th of November, is going to station direct on the 15th of December. So again, a day he's going to exert a lot of energy because he is stationing direct, but is still in shadow until January 3rd. So just do know whatever comes up can get mixed up. We're really not completely out of the woods until Mercury is out of his post-retrograde shadow on the 3rd of January. There's a new moon there on the 1st. Great to set intentions in terms of work, perhaps in terms of health and lifestyle as well. Always good to coordinate with wherever the new moon is to set an intention in something related to that house. I keep getting the impression I'm never saying that in order, but you get the idea. But just remember again, Mercury's still in that whole cycle until the 3rd of January. So you might make a resolution or set an intention, but it seems to have trouble, sorting itself out or going ahead, especially if it involves someone else. Because remember, whatever we're trying to communicate sort of goes through that ringer of Mercury retrograde. Then there's a full moon on the 15th across in your 12th house, classic 12th house, 6th house opposition. The full moon can be highlighting something there, bringing something to culmination in the sense of an ending, or sometimes just finally settling something. As much as this is where we're out working in service to others, our physical health, this is our inner world, our inner self, where we go to get quiet, where we go to check in with ourselves. It's all those practices related to that as well. So maybe the full moon is showing you something, again, that idea of finding balance between, am I spread too thin in terms of work and I don't have enough time for myself, or I don't even have enough time to, just get quiet, think, reflect. Sometimes just the idea of recharging our batteries or just giving ourselves a mental break from, being over solicited or having a lot of work, having, obviously, when we work, like you have to think, right? Regardless of what you do, like, you're thinking, others are asking you things or you're interacting with other people. And sometimes you think, I just need to go somewhere and get quiet a little bit. So this sun moon opposition, which is the full moon, it just is a time to remind us of, are we balancing those two areas of our life out? Then, of course, on the 21st, the sun shifts into your seventh house, house of partnerships, life partner, business partner, exes, rivals, and the competition. I always say, in as much as they are significant to us, as the seventh sits across from the first, very much that idea of one-on-one people who have a transformative effect on us. So, an ex that can still be significant, or same thing for rivals and competition. A significant rival, perhaps in a business, or through a business partner, can fall into the seventh house as well. So the sun, again, putting spotlight on that area, your yearly check-in, how are things going? Where do you want to take your partnership, for example? Does it require more attention? Could be a time you're definitely paying more attention to your partnership. And again, there's another new moon this month. And of course, it is going to be in this house, and that's on the 30th. So again, great time to set an intention there as well. Maybe making more time for your partnership. Maybe, trying to show up in a new or better way with an ex, so things are a little more amiable. It could be, deciding with a business partner to work more intently one-on-one together, taking it to the next level, or just, having the intention of always working with that same person. It doesn't necessarily mean you are in business or own your own business and have a business partner, but it is someone you transact with regularly, and it is mutually beneficial for both of you. So if you have an accountant, for example, or if you do something online and always have the same editor, for example, that can also be an idea of business partner. Finally, before I wrap this up, let's talk a little bit about Venus. Venus will be in Capricorn in your seventh house, wrapping up her stay there. That has been wonderful energy, but by the 9th, by the 9th, no, by the 7th, sorry, will be in your 8th house, again, of wealth you benefit from through a partner, or loans, mortgages, debts as well. Where Pluto is, what we talked about before, Venus, much different energy from Mars, especially a Mars on retrograde. Venus is going to be there until the start of January. People want to help us wherever Venus is. Venus wants to enter into relationship with others. Venus does relate to money, so good to have her in one of our money houses. Venus also has a lot of charm and diplomacy, so can, I'll say, wheedle her way to get what she wants. It just leaves everybody feeling win-win, definitely, because Venus relates to others, so she really sees both sides, and again leaves everybody with that feeling of the win-win situation. There's a lot of diplomacy with Venus, so good time to ask if you need to ask for something in this area. This, by the way, will and Venus will conjunct Pluto. I'll talk about that in a second, but this Pluto-Mars opposition is only from the 25th of December. Already by the 7th, Venus is there and will conjunct Pluto. So things are smoother, more amiable. Then as we get towards the end of the month and there's the Pluto-Mars conjunction, things get a little more difficult. But yes, Venus will conjunct Pluto. That is going to be upon her arrival on the 7th until the 10th of December. Venus conjunct Pluto has Venus really intense in terms of relationships, looking at things very, very in terms of the connection and the intensity of the connection. So, this idea of, and Venus, again, as I said, does relate to money. So this idea of, what is the bond behind this sharing of wealth? Venus could be looking at that very, very deeply, especially if we're talking about a business partner or a life partner. The downside of that is Venus can become somewhat manipulative. This allows, Venus conjunct Pluto allows for a lot of insight, also exploring power and control issues. So, Venus on the worst, I'll say the really downside of this is, how much can I get out of you by playing on our relationship, if I can put it that way. So again, not here to tell anybody what to do, but that's sort of the negative manifestation that Venus can take on. The idea of the power plays and the manipulation through ties of love and affection. And again, it could be a life partner, could even be a business partner, you're very, very close to, or you could even see Venus really, really trying to charm the bank manager because you want a mortgage or something, for example. If you do strike up a romance, just do know during that time, idea of a very magnetic attraction, something, perhaps with a dark side, an aura of danger, can be someone that is very transformative in your life, but we want them to be transformative in a good way and not in this, dark, dangerous way. As exciting as that may seem, Cancer, but that is Venus conjunct Pluto. Very, very interesting energy, though. So lovely, Cancer. That is everything I wanted to tell you for December. Have a wonderful month. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Hi, Leo. Welcome to your December astrology. Leo, heart goes out to you. You have Mars retrograde in your sign. In 2023, I was looking back, you had Venus retrograde in your sign, and in 2024, the Mercury retrogrades have all been in fire signs. So you had a Mercury retrograde in your sign. Not easy. Do know the Mercury retrogrades will alternate between fire signs and water signs next year in 2025. I'm not sure exactly of the dates. I know one will move between Aries and Pisces. I'm not sure if one will be in your sign, but anyway, after that, things should be over for quite a while, Leo. So do hang in there. You are my heart emoji of the month of December in terms of the astrology. So let's start with Mars. Let's get that out of the way. Mars stations retrograde on December 6th in your sign. Remember, a planet exerts a lot of energy stationing retrograde or direct. So, feel that more intensely. Feel that more intensely also because this will be taking place partly in your sign. By January 6th, Mars has gone back into Cancer. On the 23rd, we'll station direct again. We'll still be in Cancer, and we'll be there until March. So stations direct on February 23rd, and is still there until March, still trying to catch up to where he was when he stationed retrograde. I think stationing retrograde at 6 degrees of your sign, Leo, and then moving back to 22 degrees of Cancer, if I'm not mistaken, 17 or 22 degrees. Mars retrograde can be very frustrating energy because Mars still wants to do something, but it's being forced to go backwards. So the idea of less motivation. This is your first house. This is how you appear to others. It's your physical appearance. It's your online profile. It can be your online photo in on a company website, for example. It's how we show up for others or how others see us. So, definitely with Mars there, more assertive, more confident, a lot of, gusto and going ahead for things and, not backing down. Remember, Mars was the god of war in Roman mythology. So, a lot of forwardness and energy type of thing. But on retrograde, it seems that this is, just feeling frustrated or trying to push forward and hitting a wall type of thing, or trying to do something but it's not panning out, or worse yet, Mars is misdirected. So you're really being assertive and standing up for something and it's not really the right target, for example, or it's just not really it turns out to be a waste of energy. It's not worth it type of thing, if I can put it that way. So definitely feeling less motivation. Something you're trying to do, it just wanes, it fizzles. There's not that usual Mars energy and assertiveness. Mars really goes like for a goal and in a straight line, but that's just not there anymore. And then, of course, he just disappears completely back into your 12th house before coming back again. The only thing we can really do is use that energy to plan and review, ask people their opinions, maybe beta test if it's something. Really assess and prepare. Not the time to be creating new profiles or showing up on new platforms, for example. And remember, the first house is really us, Leo. So all the other houses are areas of us, or parts or aspects of us, but this is really us. So A little more probably difficult to have Mars retrograde there. Then, of course, he's going to move back into your 12th house, very much your inner self, what is secret, private, where we go to be alone type of thing. I say Mars in the 12th often kicks up a lot of subconscious dust. Again, just be patient with yourself or with whatever comes up, because it's as if, Mars is sort of, rummaging around, but sort of going in circles and things aren't clear. So don't, again, get frustrated with that, or maybe it's, having you do inner work or examine inner patterns, and things just aren't going ahead as fast as you want, or aren't going ahead the way you want. And just do know, let's add to that, Mars will oppose Pluto again. He did that when he was direct end of October, start of November. Now he's on retrograde, so backing up and opposing Pluto one more time. And this is going to be, actually, we'll probably do it again as he moves forward. Why not? But this time will be from the 25th of December to the 6th of January, exact on the 1st. Now, though, the only difference is this is a Leo Aquarius opposition, first house, a 7th house opposition. The one end of October was at the very end of your 12th house, as Pluto was at the very end of Capricorn, 12th house, 6th house opposition. So you, again, and significant other in your life partner, business partner, exes, rivals, and the competition as well. Very, very close friend, a mentor, an advisor, the idea of trust and commitment and one-on-one relationship. Now, definitely a power struggle. As I said, Mars, god of war, Pluto, all about power and control. So no one is going to be backing down. I wrote in my notes, I keep saying this, I wrote choose your battles, and then I wrote just avoid everything completely. There's an idea of really wasted energy as we're going to get involved in something that just isn't going to be settled, especially that Mars is retrograde. It can make us feel powerless. It can make us feel as if nothing is working out, because that's the energy. It just, Mars settles things quickly. This just doesn't come to completion. And opposed to Pluto, like the two of them, neither will back down. And opposition is always a question of finding balance. But between these two, it's like, I'm not going to give an inch and I'm not going to give an inch. So do know, again, this isn't a light switch flipping on and off. So it builds a little bit before, dies down after. But from the 25th of December to the 6th of January, that, is really on. So whatever comes up, you think, oh, I'm really going to take this on, or, I'm really not going to back down. That's very Mars energy. And then, Pluto in your 7th just being, nope, nope, I've got total control here, and I've got the power, and I'm not budging an inch either. So just let the energy, let that pass. Don't get caught up in anything, because again, and I'm going to repeat myself because these are two angular houses and two important areas, it is going to drag on. It's going to be a waste of energy, and it is not, what dare I say, definitely not going to be worth it. Let's talk about something a little bit more lighter. Can I put it that way? We'll talk about the sun, the moon, Mercury. The sun is sitting in your 5th house, actually the house related to your sign, Leo. The house very much about individual self-expression, romance, children in our lives, be they our children, grandchildren, godchildren, stepchildren, everything to do with children, such as pregnancy, IVF. So romance, creativity as well, what we do for fun, right? Our idea of what we do for entertainment, what we do as a pastime. The sun is your yearly check-in there, shedding light on your 5th house, maybe examining relationships with children, maybe examining where you're at romantically if you're not, in a committed partnership, what is going on there. Mercury retrograde, and I did do a video on that. I think I talked about it last month, but Mercury is still retrograde until the 15th of December. So mix-ups in communication, misunderstandings with children, misunderstandings with romantic partners. Just try to be clear as possible about everything. And even though Mercury stations direct on the 15th of December, he isn't completely out of cycle until the 3rd of January. So we're still under the effect of, those mix-ups and those miscommunications. There is a new moon there on the 1st, so you can set an intention in relation to one of those topics. It could be doing your, or attending to your creative pursuit on a more regular basis. It could be perhaps, if you're not in a relationship, deciding that you're going to make time for some romantic encounters, maybe making more time on a more regular basis to do something fun, you know, saying, okay, once a month, I'm going to go to the museum or to the theater. I'm going to go to a sports event, for example. Just remember, again, things won't fall into place super fast because we have Mercury there still mixing things up. So you might attempt, but then it's going to get mixed up. Again, just patience. By the start of January, Mercury is completely over this cycle. Now, I'll finish up with Venus. Let me talk more about the moon and the sun. Then the moon is going to be full across in your 11th house. Jupiter taking up all the space. Of course, he would. He's the biggest planet. This is on the 15th, classic sun-moon opposition, often between, you know, our individual self, where we have to be ourself. I gotta be me. If anything characterizes you, Leo, it's that idea of, you know, I gotta be me. And of course, the 11th, social circles, networking, groups we belong to, that idea perhaps of conformity within the group. So again, a question of finding balance. Maybe, you know, you're spending a lot of time here with children, romantic partners, not showing up in your groups as much. Maybe there's something you're doing here that isn't, I say sometimes, you know, it's not meeting the approval of the group, or it's sort of, you know, stepping outside the norms of the group. This is also long-term goals as well. So the moon can show us something, you know, especially across, again, from the sun-moon opposition. This is also seen very much, you know, the head, the heart, you know, where your head is at, where your more reasonable self is, where you are emotionally. Again, that idea of back and forth. We say the moon can highlight something, but also bring something to culmination. Not necessarily in terms of an ending. It could be, maybe you're saying, you know, this group is just taking up too much of my time and I'm just going to have to, you know, let that go, or that association, for example, or just, you know, settling it once and for all type of thing, you know, saying, okay, how much time can I devote here to a long-term goal, or devote to that organization, or how much am I going to take into account what the group is saying versus, you know, how much energy I want to put here and focus I want to put here. Then by the 21st, the sun moves into your 6th house. This, of course, is coworkers, workload, workplace. It's your academic workload, if that concerns you. It is other jobs, usually with the idea of a responsibility, service to others, and a regularity. There's very much the idea of routine and lifestyle with the 6th house. So if your job is to take an elderly grandparent grocery shopping every week, it could be something like that, right? You're in service to them. It's not paid, but you have that responsibility and that duty, and you have to show up regularly on a routine. It's also our physical health and our pets. And employees also, if you have employees or someone you employ regularly. So the sun is going to add focus to that, sort of the yearly check-in. You know, am I enjoying my job? Is there something else I want to do there? Is there something I need to change up? Is there a health habit that I should stop doing or start doing? You know, something I want to change in terms of my routine, in terms of my lifestyle. There's another new moon this month on the 30th, and is going to be in this 6th house, of course. A new moon is always when the moon and the sun are together. So this, again, is a great time to usher in a resolution in terms of 6th house matters. So again, you know, a new health habit, exercise habit, you know, a change to your routine, you know, something that is going to better things. Very much, you know, with the idea of giving you the most seamless routine possible. The 6th house relates to Virgo, so very much that idea of things running smoothly. So you might be, you know, tweaking your routine for things to run as smoothly as possible. And finally, lovely Venus. Venus is going to wrap up, is only going to spend the first 9 days of the month in your 6th house, or the first 7 days rather, sorry. By the 7th has moved into your 7th house of partnerships. This is a wonderful energy, and Venus will conjunct Pluto upon her arrival. All this is going to take place before the Mars-Pluto opposition. So as Venus arrives just the day before Mars has stationed retrograde, then we move along with Venus-Pluto conjunction, and then as we get towards the end of the month, of course, this Mars-Pluto opposition. So Venus arrives in your house of partnerships. wonderful because Venus relates to love and relationships, can be deepening a partnership, can be taking a partnership to another level, really, a lot of intensity. It can be a business partner as well. I mentioned this is, very close one-on-one relationship. So maybe, advisor or mentor relationship, mentor-mentoree, that is intensifying, very, very close friendship. Maybe you're just really becoming closer to that person. Could even be smoothing things over with exes or rivals. Just do know, and Venus will be there until into January, into the start of January. But upon her arrival on the 7th, she is going to conjunct Pluto. Actually, this is going to run to the 10th, but exact on the 7th upon her arrival. And Venus conjunct Pluto, remember Pluto, all about power and control, is really going to have you wanting that deep, intense connection within a relationship. It can really be a strong desire to strengthen ties in a really bonding, melding, fused together way. It can even be exploring the dark side of power and control, even in a sexual aspect. But the downside of Venus is that she can resort to manipulation and power plays through these ties of love and affection. And I am reading my notes because I did want to say this right. So that is sometimes the downside. Venus is so much exploring the intensity of these connections. And because she has conjunct Pluto that is all about power and control, the power and control aspects, where that lies, fine, good to question ourselves on that. But then she can go sometimes a little bit overboard and really, explore the limits with, what about the power plays? What can I pull some power plays? How much manipulation can I do? Can I, be manipulative? I always say, far be it from me to tell anybody what to do, but do know the energy can manifest that way as well. And if you do begin a relationship with Venus-Pluto conjunct, or if this does intensify a relationship, know it can be with someone who is really going to transform your life. You can be attracted to someone, that has an aura of secrecy, very much because of Pluto, even an aura of danger or a dark side. So great to have someone who is transformative, but just be careful of being drawn to someone who has too much of a dark side or, that danger side in terms of, again, secrecy, power, and control. So lovely, Leo. That is everything I wanted to tell you for December. Have a wonderful month, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Hi, Virgo. Welcome to your December astrology. Let's start down here, yes, with your ruler Mercury, the sun, the moon. So the sun is sitting in your 4th house, one of the most private or intimate areas of our chart, not where we're all alone like the 12th, but where only those very, very close to us really have access. This is actually the most private part of our chart, foundational area of our chart. So the sun here in your house of home and family, be that family of origin, family of choice, wherever we feel at home. So in terms of region, state, province, idea of homeland as well, idea of the actual structure you live in. So whether that's your flat, your condo, a house, whether you share that with roommates. Often people say, I'm from this place, but this is where I feel at home, or I feel at home here in my apartment with my roommate type of thing, or where I really feel at home is when I go back home to my family of origin with, my parents, or however your family of origin looks or is composed. So having said that, sun yearly check-in here, perhaps exploring family relations, family dynamics. If there's something that has to be settled, maybe everything is going on just fine. This can be a move as well. Maybe you're considering moving or moving out. Just remember, this can also be, as I said, the actual place you live. So maybe, check in on that aspect. Are there repairs that need to be done? Is there a renovation you want to be done? Something you want to change, perhaps? Mercury, your ruler, is retrograde still in your 4th house. Because Mercury is your ruler, you do feel these retrogrades a little more intensely because that is our ruling planet. Have no fear, Virgo. Mercury stations direct on the 15th, but still in shadow until the 3rd of January. So I spoke about this, I think, last month and a little bit last month in the monthly astrology, but also I did a video all about this Mercury retrograde. Mercury pertains to commerce, all agreements, communications. So any contracts to have work done on your home will probably change up. Not a good idea if you can wait until the start of January when Mercury is completely out of shadow. Much, much better idea. Confusion with family members in terms of communications as well. Try to just be as clear as possible. There is a new moon there on the 1st, so you can set an intention in terms of 4th house. Maybe it is getting together with family. Maybe, I'll give you one example, won't apply to everyone, but, having supper with your parents once a week, talking about family of origin. Again, if that's, what your family of origin looks like, then on the 15th, there's a full moon across, of course. Opposite effect almost, but sun moon opposition. So this, of course, as we said, home and family, this is the highest point in your chart. As much as this, I see as the most private, lowest hidden, this is the highest point in your chart. This is where you seek success. It's also those people who outrank us. So bosses, supervisors, the idea of even governmental authority or parental authority as well, interestingly enough. The full moon can be highlighting something there. So classic question of finding balance between where we're needed on the home front, very much, where the sun is, putting focus there. And then the full moon can highlight something or bring something to culmination, even maybe something you have to settle. Not always an ending, but just maybe something that has to be settled there. Again, with this idea of finding balance, could be a parental authority question, could be, again, where you're out making your mark in the world and where you're needed at the home front or on the home front. The moon is our emotions. We're always more emotional on a full moon, but, this is the idea of the heart versus the head as well. So, logically, rationally, what should I be doing here? Focusing attention here, and then more on a heart sense or emotional sense, what is pulling at your heartstrings in terms of your success? By the 21st, the sun shifts into Capricorn in your 5th house. Quite different. Romance, creativity, children, everything we do for fun. So hobbies, activities we like to go to, events we like to attend, the idea of entertainment. Putting focus again there. So, what is going on for romance won't be applicable to everyone, but for those of you who are involved in a romance or considering getting involved, the sun is there as your yearly check-in. How are things going with children, your children, other significant children in your life? They can be your godchildren, they can be stepchildren. It is also, again, entertainment, creativity. What do we want to do there? There's a new moon there on the 30th. This, again, is a great time to set intention, and always in relation to the house that the new moon is in. So maybe, showing up more often for a creative practice, maybe doing something fun on a more regular basis, whatever that looks like for you. Is it getting together with your children or those significant children in your life and doing something? Is it going to the museum more often? Is it going to see a movie more often? But always with the idea of setting an intention or setting a resolution of some sort, something we want to usher in. Now I'm going to backtrack a little bit and talk about Venus. Venus spends the first week of the month in your 5th house, but then by the 7th has moved into your 6th house, the house actually related to your sign. So again, our physical health, all lifestyle and routines. There's an idea of service. So it's workplace and co-workers as well. It's your academic workload, for example. It's other unpaid jobs and duties we have. Very much an idea of service with the 6th house. And there is an idea of service with your sign, Virgo, and also routines, right? Virgo is very much about perfecting the system that works. So this is also our pets also. So Venus there, of course, just, wants to forge ties, very diplomatic, always, leaves people feeling always with that win-win. I keep saying, because Venus, does tend to see both sides and does tend to be very diplomatic. So if there's something to settle in the workplace, really, really good. It's easy to get people on board with a project at work. Also, this could mark a romance with someone in the workplace as well. Venus will, however, conjunct Pluto upon her arrival. She arrives on the 7th, so from the 7th to the 10th. Venus conjunct Pluto creates a dynamic where relationships are very, very intense. So we might be exploring that, really looking at those ties within, perhaps again, within the workplace or anywhere else, as I said, where you have the idea of job, duty, responsibility. I think I was saying in the previous video, if perhaps your responsibility is every week taking out an elderly relative to go grocery shopping, for example. So Venus really wants to either intensify those ties or explore, the depth of those ties. That is all the idea of the Pluto energy. Can be this powerful desire to strengthen those ties, in a very, very deep way. You can even be exploring the dark side of that. So almost, how much can I get away with? How strong is this tie that I can get away with a bit of manipulation, or I can exert a little bit of power, for example. That's almost the dark side of Venus conjunct Pluto. How much can I get? And there's an idea of secrecy with Pluto. So the shadow side of this, I would say, Virgo, is, something like something secretive going on at work, and you confide in someone, but at the same time you're thinking, how strong is this tie to this coworker? How much can I trust them? How much can I get them on board? And again, that idea of almost, exerting a certain power or a certain manipulation through the strength of this tie, sort of like testing it a little bit. Sort of testing, with these power plays, these ties of love, of love and affection. I'll say affection because it's in the workplace. Although if, this is a romance begun in the workplace, you could be exploring that also very intensely, because romantic encounters begun with a Venus Pluto conjunction can be unusually intense. There's that idea of a magnetic attraction. It can also be, because of this power and control aspect of Pluto and secrecy, being drawn to someone where there's an idea of secrecy. Maybe it's a secretive work romance, or someone with an aura of danger. Maybe if it is found out, sometimes, very much frowned upon workplace romances. It can be someone who has a very transformative effect on your life, and great if it's in a good way, but just be careful of getting drawn into something that can be, very dark, dangerous, or secretive. I'm sounding over dramatic, but that is one of the manifestations with the Venus-Pluto conjunction, or as I said, resorting to those power plays and manipulation based on, the strength of the tie, sort of seeing how much we can get away with or how much we can do. Finally, let me wrap this up with Mars, who is going to station retrograde. Mars stations retrograde on the 6th of December. Mars only does this once every 2 years, thank goodness. In Leo, moves back into Cancer by the 6th, stations direct, still in Cancer on the 23rd of February, and is still in Cancer until March, trying to catch up to where he was when he stationed retrograde. And that is at 6 degrees of Leo. Starts at 6 degrees of Leo and goes back to, I believe, 17 or 22 degrees of Cancer. Very frustrating energy when Mars goes on a retrograde, because usual dynamic, focused on the goal, quickly trying to, achieve that target. Mars is now being made to back up, is going on a loop. In your 12th house, very much your inner self, where we go to get quiet, often where we have subconscious patterns, things we're ashamed of, things we're fearful of, things we don't want to share with others. Mars, I always say, can kick up a lot of subconscious dust, can have us very dynamically exploring there, can have us reaching out to, an astrologer, a tarot reader, a therapist, or some sort of practice to help us connect with our inner self. But now, as the energy is misguided, it's as if, it's not going anywhere, or you're losing motivation, or it's just sort of even waning, it's just sort of fizzling out. always the idea of patience and just, planning, assessing, and being ready to go forward again when Mars is completely out of the cycle. When Mars moves still on his retrograde into your 11th house, remember this is your social circle, any groups, clubs, organizations you belong to. It's also our long-term goals. So again, planning in terms of long-term goals, just assessing if something comes up within the group. Mars can really be confrontational and combative, right? Doesn't take too much lying down and will stand up for a cause or stand up for what is right. So it could be towards someone within the group or it could be defending the group. But again, on retrograde, not really a good idea because that energy is just sort of, skewed and misdirected. Mars will oppose Pluto from December 25th to January 6th, exact on the 1st, so at the start of the year, a repeat of what Mars did when he was direct end of October, start of November, except now he's on retrograde. Mars, Pluto, if you watched my video on that, fight to the end because Mars, god of war, won't back down. Neither will Pluto. He's all about power and control. Pluto was god of the underworld in Roman mythology. So don't get caught up in anything. Again, remember we were talking about workplace, physical health. This is inner self Virgo, psychological or spiritual health. Often this manifests in, am I being mentally drained or psychologically drained because I am so needed here in the workaday world, or where I am of service to others, or where I have other duties to fulfill that I can't get a break to sort of recharge my batteries psychologically, or I don't have any time alone with myself to just sort of, reflect or do whatever practices I have to sort of replenish myself in that aspect. Again, nothing is going to get settled because neither of these two are going to give an inch. And an opposition is always a question of finding balance, but nobody wants to, cede an inch to find this balance. So try to avoid that feeling of conflict. It can manifest almost just between you and yourself because you're trying to sort it out. It could manifest also in some expression because the 12th, we're here alone with ourselves, but it could manifest in some expression in the workplace or with someone else that you have duties and responsibilities towards. Again, I put, this idea in my notes of choosing your battles, but I think, I'm going to go with the next phrase, which was just, avoid it completely. Mars's energy is going to be misdirected. We can feel powerless, or we can just feel, nothing is settled, nothing is working out. I can't find the balance, right? I'm either always, there's so many demands being made on me here, and I'm always sort of, exhausted. I can't have a minute alone to myself. Just know while that energy is on, we're really not going to be able to settle anything. And again, it lasts from the 25th of December to the 6th of January, never like a switch flicking on and off. So starts a little bit before, dies down a little bit after. And again, Virgo, the watchwords here are just patience, assess, jot down ideas if you have them, but wait until the energy is passed before you act on them. So Virgo, that is everything I wanted to tell you for December. Have a wonderful month, and I'll see you in the next one. Hi Libra, welcome to your December astrology. Let's start with, oh my goodness, everybody looks so crooked. Let's start with these guys down here. Sun until the 21st is going to be sitting in your third house. This is your communications, be they written or spoken, even your style of communication, your inner dialogue, your thought process. It is also siblings and cousins and other relatives. It's neighbors. It's our local trips around town, commutes to work, day trips, the idea of weekend getaways or somewhere where we can get in a day by car, over land. And I say that because it is related to Gemini and ruled by Mercury. But the sun there is, your yearly check-in dynamics, perhaps with, again, siblings and cousins. What is going on with your day-to-day, your communications? Maybe there's something you want to do different in terms of communications. This is also online, so maybe you want to show up on a different platform or a new platform, for example. Mercury is still in retrograde until the 15th of December and still in post-retrograde shadow until the 3rd of January. So still mixing things up. Whatever you are trying to put out there is not going to be understood, is not going to reach its target, is not going to be received perhaps the way you thought. You can find that you're just having trouble communicating. Mercury relates to communications, as I said, and is the ruler of Gemini and is related to the third house. So, affecting that even more. It is going to be difficult, and do still pay attention again until the 3rd of January to anything you write, be it online or not, that it reaches the right person, that it's clear, that it's not misunderstood, because Mercury just, is really wreaking havoc, is playing tricks. Again, whatever you say to, siblings, cousins, neighbors can also be confused. If you're traveling, that can also get hampered. It can be something like car breakdown. It can be something like confusion, in your travels. This again, is very local. It's what is familiar to us and local. So our day-to-day world, but the commuter train is super late, or this won't apply to all of us, but if you take public transit, there's a snafu of some sort. A lot of technological glitches as well. That's why we say don't buy cell phones or laptops during Mercury retrograde. Things like banking also are affected by, or things with numbers are affected by Mercury retrograde. I find wreaks a lot of havoc. So that's why I'm saying for travel, it can be something like your means of transport, but it can also be something like, times and dates that get mixed up, or gate numbers that are switched up, for example. So enough of that, but do know that is what's going on until the 3rd of January, until that cycle is over. So all agreements are also affected, Libra. Don't take anything as being cast in stone. The good news is there is a new moon there on the 1st. So great time to set an intention in that area. If you have a writing project, deciding to contribute to that more regularly. Maybe you have a blog, a newsletter. Maybe you're just trying to write a book or a guide of some sort. Maybe you want to post online more, but again, we have this retrograde in the shadow. So great to set the intention, but just remember until the 3rd of January, Mercury is really sort of still going to be, wreaking havoc with things. Then, of course, on the 15th, there's a full moon across in your 9th house. This is whatever is foreign to us. So it is long distance travel. It's higher education, as much as this is grade school and high school education. It is mass media communication, the web. It is advertising, propaganda. It's organized religion. So the idea of ideology, dogma as well. It is whatever, as much as this is our familiar, this is our foreign. So what brings us different life outlooks, different ways of seeing things. The full moon can, of course, highlight something here, maybe something that you want to do, maybe something that, you want to pursue. Very much an idea of a lot of emotion with the full moon is related to our emotions. So maybe something that is really a passion project. Yeah, that's the right term, right? A passion project. Maybe you do want to take a trip to somewhere far away. Maybe you do want to go away to school. Maybe you want to publish something. Maybe you just want to explore different spiritual practices. And of course, the sun across, focus on what is familiar to you. So the classic, what if I go away? What's going to be happening here at home? Or, am I going to miss home? Or it's kind of hard sometimes, to pull ourselves away from the familiar and explore what is different. Or the idea of, or you're going away and, everything's going to be different, or you're going to come back changed type of thing. So you get the idea of always of, finding balance between the two. Sometimes it's just sort of acclimatizing ourselves to the idea of something new and different. Then by the 21st, the sun moves into your 4th house, home and family, family of origin, family of choice, the actual place you live. So highlighting that, is there something perhaps in terms of family dynamics that have to be addressed? Is there something you want to change in your home, something that needs to be repaired, maybe a space where you want to, or a room you want to redecorate? It can also be the idea of exploring a move as well, changing homes, be that far away, because the 4th also relates to homeland, region, state, province. So it could be moving somewhere that is somewhat of a distance. It can be just, changing homes. Maybe you're going from a condo to a home, or, you know, an apartment to a home. Maybe you're moving out from your home of origin. There is a new moon, 2 new moons this month. So there's another new moon there on the 30th. Great time to set intentions there as well. Maybe getting together with family members on a more regular basis. Maybe something in terms of, you know, your home that you're going to do on a more regular basis. Again, that idea of setting intention with a new moon. Now, let me talk about, am I going to start with Mars? Am I going to start with Venus? Let's get Mars out of the way. No, let's do Venus. Venus is your ruler, Libra. Let's start with Venus. Venus spends only 7 days in your fourth house of home and family, wrapping that up, and then moves into your fifth house and stays there into January. Fifth house is romance. It is children. So anything to do with children, pregnancy, adoption, IVF, surrogacy. It is children in terms of our children or other significant children in our life, like perhaps our godchildren, our nieces and nephews. It's what we do for fun and entertainment. It's also our creative pursuits. So, and Venus is related, you know, to what is beautiful. Venus is also all our ties and relationships. So I call this, you know, Venus in the fifth house is, you know, definitely the warm fuzzies with a romantic partner, with the children in your life, you know, maybe getting together, spending more time together, really, you know, tightening that bond, really having nice, again, affectionate, loving, cozy moments together. The only caveat is Venus will conjunct Pluto very much at the start of her arrival. So on the 7th of December, maybe an orb from the 7th to the 10th. Venus, Pluto being all about power and control, Venus is really going to want to deepen and intensify these bonds. So, you know, if you are in a romantic relationship, even with children, you know, really the idea of exploring the deepness and the intensity of that connection, really, really want to, you know, bond almost in a, you know, a melding way. The downside is Venus can sometimes resort to manipulation or power plays through these ties of love and affection, as if we really want to explore the limits or, you know, how much we can get away with. In terms of a romantic partner, you know, if you do meet someone or you are involved in a romantic relationship, it can be even exploring, you know, the dark side, you know, the issues of power and control, even in a sexual aspect. And, you know, a romantic relationship that is begun with this Venus-Pluto conjunction can be very, very attractive. That idea almost of, you know, magnetic, inexplainable attraction. Someone perhaps with a dark side or an aura of danger, an idea of secrecy as well, all very Plutonian. Someone who can have a transformative effect on our life, that's wonderful, but we do want that to be a good transformative effect. So just be aware it's a short aspect. It only lasts a few days, but you can be drawn to someone with a very secretive, dark, or dangerous side. So not going to apply to all of you, but I just, you know, did want to put that out there. Now, Mars is going to retrograde. Let's finish with Mars. Is going to retrograde on the 6th of December, well into January, is going to station direct on the 23rd of February. By the 6th of January, will have moved back into Cancer, is going to station direct, as I said, in Cancer on the 23rd of February and stay there into March, really trying to pick up speed and come back into Leo. That whole cycle will be complete when Mars comes back into Leo, I think at 6 degrees. It's going to start as retrograde at 6 degrees. So we're looking at past March until that whole cycle is over. Mars, as you know, I'm saying that probably because he's going to oppose Pluto during this, but Mars is a lot of dynamic energy, wants to stand up and fight for a cause, wants to get things done. But on retrograde, this energy is just, you know, waning. It's misdirected. There's just a lack of motivation. The 11th house is our social circle, all our networking, clubs, organizations we belong to. It's long-term goals as well. So things just aren't progressing the way we want. I would caution you against standing up for a group or standing up to someone within a group. Mars can be confrontational, But on the retrograde, things just, are getting skewed and that energy is misdirected. So I always caution a little bit against Mars energy, stepping on too many toes, but sometimes it can be a good thing. Sometimes we do have to stand up and defend ourselves or defend a group or a cause. But with Mars retrograde, that energy is just sort of, confused and misdirected. Same thing when Mars moves into the 10th house, still on retrograde, highest point in your chart, Libra, where you seek success, people above you on this ladder to success. So, don't take anyone on or decide you're going to tell, someone higher up in your organization how things should be or what they're doing wrong, because again, that energy is just not great. Take notes, assess, but sort of keep your thoughts to yourself and just be ready to go ahead with whatever you have planned when Mars stations direct again in the spring. And I'll probably do a whole video just on this Mars retrograde. And of course, Mars is going to oppose Pluto from December 25th to January 6th. Again, building a bit before, coming into orb and then dying down afterwards. So it's not a switch flicking on the 25th of December, and it's going to be exact the 1st of January. So going to be interesting to see. Mars, I do have a whole video on Mars Pluto retrograde because there was one when Mars was direct leaving Cancer, and it was opposed Capricorn end of October, start of November. So again, intensity, conflict, neither of these two are going to back down. Neither are going to give an inch. Always a question of trying to find balance, but really, really not working. Do avoid anything that is conflict during this time because it's just going to drag out. It's as if it's going to leave you feeling powerless. Nothing is working, nothing is getting settled. But this is really, really the energy of what's going on. The 11th house, again, is the group a lot. The idea of conformity, again, your long-term goals. This is very much the 5th, the idea of self-expression. So how we do romance, sex is also in the 5th house. What's our approach on that? Children, our creative pursuits, what we do for fun, very much a marker of who we are as an individual, what we do for fun. So again, there can be a back and forth there. Pluto's like, no, I'm not ceding an inch, and this is how I express myself, and this is who I am, and this is how I'm doing this. And then sometimes, the idea of conformity of the group or the pressure of the group. So again, just don't get caught up in it. My watchwords are like, don't get caught up in anything, take notes, but just don't get involved. That's probably the best way I can put it. Don't get involved. Mars really, really wants to, take something on and do something. Mars is that planet. It's like, let's do something. We're not just going to sit around and observe what's going on. We're going to get in there and do something, not while this opposition is going on and not while Mars is retrograde. So Libra, that is everything I wanted to tell you for December. Have a wonderful, wonderful month. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Hi, Scorpio. Welcome to your December astrology. You have the sun, a new moon, and Mercury retrograde in your 2nd house of your wealth, your income, property you own, your valuables, money you make, money you save. So the sun there is like your yearly check-in, right? How are things going? Financially, what do you want to do? Is there anything that needs to be changed? Are you dissatisfied? Is everything pretty okay? At the same time, we have Mercury retrograde there still to the 15th of December, but in post-retrograde shadow until the 3rd of January. I talked about this in the video on the Mercury retrograde. I talked about this a little bit last month, so I won't go too much into detail. But do know Mercury confuses communications, wreaks havoc, I find, with numbers. So whatever you are doing, maybe the sun is putting focus on something you want to do, something in terms of income. Just do know, not a good time to sign any agreements until Mercury is completely out of the cycle on the 3rd of January. Any transactions, Mercury can mix up numbers. So if you're transferring money or receiving money or sending money out, make sure all the numbers are in order. Make sure it's been received, or make sure everything is done correctly, because this is just a time of, a lot of mix-ups. There's also a new moon there on the 1st. So good time to set an intention, perhaps. You want to save more money in the coming year, for example. Great to coordinate the energy of the new moon with the topics of whatever house it is taking place in. But just remember, it's still going to get off to a rocky start because we're still on that Mercury retrograde cycle. Then on the 15th, the moon moves super fast, will already be across, and there will be a full moon in your 8th house, actually the house related to your sign. And this is other people's money or wealth you share or benefit from through someone else. So anything like a loan, a mortgage, an inheritance, a partner's money, be it business partner or life partner, can be something like a scholarship or a grant. Debt is also there as well. This, of course, sun-moon opposition is always a question of finding balance. Moon is related to our emotions, always makes us more emotional. Not good to have a lot of emotion in a money house, but this is usually finding balance between how much money we owe and how much money we have. Or again, as I said, this might be money you want to save, or an idea of, maybe you have projects to increase your income as well. This can be with a partner also, how are things divided up? Or, maybe you have to put money into something, into, a shared property, for example. Maybe you are looking for a mortgage, and, there's a question of how much of my income now is going to have to go towards a mortgage or towards repaying a loan, for example. Always a question of finding balance here. And, as I said, I'm joking. Well, I'm joking. I'm not actually joking that much. The moon is an increase in emotion, and it usually builds, 2 or 3 days before and dies down afterwards. So not the time to get caught up in something. You might be reacting very, very emotionally to something to have to do with the 8th house, and especially that there's an opposition going on. So just, let the energy die down, and what is, still there afterwards can be addressed. Let me wrap up with the sun and the moon, the two luminaries. So by the 21st, the sun shifts into your 3rd house. There is a new moon there on the 30th, always a new moon when the sun and the moon are together. So focus on your writing, your speaking, your communications, whatever you put out regularly. So, if you have a podcast, for example, or a blog, or you a newsletter, something you write regularly. This is whatever is familiar to us also. So, our commutes around town, short trips, not too far away. It is our siblings, our cousins, our neighbors, just, our familiar places and faces. So sun, again, yearly check-in, bringing a lot of focus and energy there. Maybe you're increasing your writing. Maybe, you find yourself just communicating more, voicing your thoughts and opinions more. This could be something to do with siblings and cousins as well. The new moon there is on the 30th. So good time to usher in an intention in relation to that. Also, maybe you want to contribute to a writing project on a more regular basis. This is also good old-fashioned letter writing. Maybe there's somebody you want to write to on a more regular basis. Maybe this has something to do with your siblings or your cousins as well. So always great, again, to set an intention when we have the energy of the new moon. Venus is going to be in your 4th house of home and family starting on the 7th. So spends the first week in your 3rd house, but then quickly moves into your 4th house until January. This is family of origin, family of choice. It is the actual place you live. So, your flat, your house, your apartment. Venus wants to forge ties. Venus is also is all about love and relationships. So I always say, the warm fuzzies, more warm, close times with family members, for example. Venus also relates to whatever is beautiful and aesthetically pleasing. So can have you spending money on your home. Maybe you're going to want to buy something, renovate, redecorate, or buy some, beautiful luxury item for your home. Venus will, however, conjunct Pluto upon her arrival. Pluto is all about power and control, all about transformation. Pluto has just arrived in Aquarius, and I actually should put them like this because they're both sitting at the 1st degrees. And Pluto will be pretty much at the 1st degrees of Aquarius all into 2025. But I do have a video all about Pluto and Aquarius. This is going to be the start of a 20-year transit Scorpio and began November 19th when Pluto moved into Aquarius for good. If you followed my other videos, Pluto has been hovering back and forth between Capricorn and Aquarius wrapping up Capricorn and starting something in Aquarius, and has been doing so since 2023. On November 19th, he arrived in Aquarius for good. First time in 248 years. So that's going to be interesting for all of us, but will be conjuncted by Venus from the 7th to the 10th. Exact more on the 7th. So Venus conjunct Pluto is really, really going to want to explore the intensity of all these relationships and all these ties. So this concerns very much family members. Sometimes people very, very close to us who are like family as well. So I just wanted to put that on your radar. The very, very depth of them. Pluto is your modern ruler, Scorpio. So this might, really ring true to you, or you might think, hey, that sort of words that you are used to describe my sign. Definitely, that idea of intense emotional connection, the depth and the breadth of those bonds. You're really going to want to strengthen ties with family members, in a very, very deeply connected way. The only downside of this is you can be exploring, the dark side of this relationship, how manipulative tendencies, or power plays, how much can you sort of stretch that tie or that bond in terms of manipulation or power play, sort of, how much can you get away with it? That's sort of the dark side of that. So do know that. I always say I'm not here to tell people what to do, but that is how the shadow side of a Venus-Pluto conjunction can manifest itself. Sort of how strong is this relationship and how much can I get away with type of thing. Can also be something secretive as well. Pluto does relate to secrets. So maybe this secretive or a secret between you and a family member, and again, that idea of, a tie that has a secretive element to it, or a shared secret. So you get sort of that whole, shadow side, dark side, but then of course it's not a long aspect, doesn't last a long time. And of course, astrology doesn't oblige us to do anything. I am putting that on your radar because it might come up as a temptation or something you want to explore. But definitely we can intensify a relationship without having it have a darker or shadow side. So do know that. And then, of course, Venus continues there into January, just, really, really having these warm, loving moments with family members. And, of course, having you buy expensive things for your house. Mars is going to retrograde. Mars, your traditional ruler, Scorpio. So that is going to be significant for you. Retrograde begins the 6th of December, but Mars has already been in pre-retrograde shadow since October, I believe the 15th or the 17th. Is going to station direct on the 23rd of February, but is going to still continue in Cancer until March. So it's still going to be in that post-retrograde cycle. We'll move through your 10th house retrograde and your 9th house. So where you seek success, people above you on this ladder of success, even the idea of parental authority as well. The 9th house, whatever is different. We talked about the 3rd being our familiar places and faces. The 9th house is higher education, long distance travel, organized religion. So it is how we are changed or what we explore that is different through traveling far away or traveling somewhere else and staying there for a very, very long time. It can even be travel in the mind, because we're going to, want to study the philosophical and the metaphysical. It can be people who are very, very different from us. It can be, as I said, college, university education as well. There's that idea of mass media communication here. As much as this is, what we put out on the web or what we write, this is, propaganda, advertising, mass media. So, Mars retrograde is kind of difficult energy because Mars is very dynamic, wants to do things, wants to reach a goal, but now it's going backwards and it's going on a loop, right? He's going to back up and then recover that same territory, turn around and come back again. So I always say this is a time to assess, to prepare, to be ready when Mars goes forward again, but don't really take anything on. And remember, Mars was, the god of war. So really related to the warrior, the soldier will stand up and fight for a cause, or will stand up and fight for what he believes is right. don't get caught up in, telling a higher up in your organization, taking them on in an argument or telling them how things should be. Same thing for maybe the ninth house. Mars is really going to want to do something there, really want to travel far away, really want to go back to school, really want to explore this other religion type of thing. But the energy is going on a loop. Good to plan, good to look at that. But actually the doing of it, which is what Mars really wants to do, is going to get, it's going to wane, it's just going to disappear completely. We're going to lose motivation at some point. That idea of what we wanted to do is just, sort of going to fizzle out. Mars is going to oppose Pluto. I'll give you the dates first, from the 25th of December to the 6th of January, exact on the 1st, a repeat of what Mars did end of October, start of November. I did do a video on that, and although that first opposition is past, if you want to get a really good idea of what that energy is, do watch that video. Mars is retrograde now, but still, Pluto will not budge an inch. He is all about power and control. And of course, Mars won't either. He wants to win at all costs. This is where we're out in the world seeking success, the highest point in our chart. The idea of public reputation in ancient astrology. So awards, achievements, recognition, a new title, a marker of success. Here's a trophy, a medal, here's the corner office type of thing. This, of course, home and family, very, very private part of our chart. As much as it's the highest point, this is the lowest point, not low, depressed, bad, but low, the most intimate and private. Again, perhaps where we're needed on the home front, or obligations, ties we have here, and where we're out in the world making our mark type of thing. This is really a can't win situation. And if you get involved in something, it's just going to be really dragged out and just won't get settled. You're going to feel powerless. You're going to feel nothing is working. I can't decide. And opposition is always about finding balance and, deciding how to bring this balance about. And you're going to be thinking, I can't work this out. I can't settle it. But that is just the energy. And really, Scorpio, don't get pulled into that. Interesting, because it is your modern ruler and your traditional ruler. So even more so, you're going to be able probably to relate to that energy even more, but even more so because you can relate to that. Don't get caught up in that. It's not a switch, so it's going to die down after the 6th of January. It's going to build a little bit before, but again, do assess, take notes, but don't go out and act on it, or don't go out and try to settle it, especially if it involves other people. It's one of those things that is just going to drag, and there won't be any end in sight. And it's just, as I said, going to leave you feeling, powerless, and you can't fix it, and it's not working out. So Scorpio, that is everything I wanted to tell you for December. Have a wonderful month. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Hi, Sagittarius. Welcome to your December astrology. Let's start by everything that's going on in your sign. You have the sun there until the 21st because it is your birthday month. It's the start of your year. You have Mercury still retrograde there. And of course, there's going to be a new moon in your sign on the 1st of December. Sorry, had to check my notes. So, of course, the sun, your vitality, life force, dynamic energy as well. You are definitely thinking about your appearance, how you show up for others. You're feeling very, very energized as well, which is good because, as I said, it is your birthday month. Really, your yearly check-in about what you want to do in the coming year. At the same time, Mercury is retrograde in your sign. Always difficult when the Mercury retrograde falls in our sign. We can feel, and I say this from experience, tongue-tied. We can't get the words out. We can't seem to communicate clearly. Sometimes our thoughts even get muddled. We have trouble expressing what we want to say or getting our thoughts in order. The good news is Mercury is going to station direct on the 15th of December, but still won't be out of retrograde shadow until the 3rd of January. So sometimes a little bit difficult, but it is almost half over, on its way to being completely done. Remember, this is also your online profile as well. And Mercury does rule our communications. So not a good time to be putting a new online profile out there, or putting on a profile on a new platform, for example, or, maybe really wanting to show up in a different way in terms of others. I really want to change what I project or how my appearance is. Not a good time with Mercury still retrograde, and do wait until the whole cycle is over on the 3rd of January. There is a new moon, however, there on the 1st, really good time to usher in an intention, and really, could be definitely for the coming year, having to do with you, maybe, a different way you want to show up. It is going to get a little bit muddled with this Mercury retrograde, but, do set that intention anyway. Maybe you want to show up in a more serious way. This isn't going to apply to all of you, but this is very much how others see us. So, maybe there's something you really want to usher in there or change there. And remember, the first house, the other houses are all aspects of us, or all part of our lives, but this is really, really us. So, maybe there's just something, and it's going to tie in with your new year, a new or different way that you want to be. Let me continue with these guys. There is going to be a full moon across, of course, from your first house in your 7th. If this is self, this is other, significant others. So life partner, business partner, exes as well. It can be rivals in the competition. Also, Sun Moon opposition is always a question of finding balance. There's been a great focus here with the Sun in your first house. Now, the full moon always makes us a little more emotional. So there can be something that's going to trigger us emotionally in terms of a partner or an ex. The full moon can also bring something to culmination, something that has to be settled or addressed. Always a question of finding balance here. We get more emotional, as I said, wherever the full moon is on a full moon, and it's going to be in your house of partnerships. And again, the Sun across, maybe you've been focusing a lot on what is going on here, and then there's going to be a question of, how is that affecting what's going on in your house of partnerships? These are two angular houses, and, whatever we bring to the partnership, of course, transforms it. And a partnership, or these very intense one-on-one relationships, can be a very, very close friend, can be the idea of close advisor or mentor as well. That is going to have an effect on us. So there's always, sort of that question of finding balance. Sometimes, with the Sun, this is where the more rational self is, and this is where we have the more emotional self with the moon. By the 21st, the Sun moves into your 2nd house of wealth and income, the money you make, the money you save, money you invest. Sorry, that's my cat. And there's going to be a new moon there on the 30th. So this again becomes your yearly check-in. Do I want to increase my income? Do I want to save more money? Is there something, is everything fine here? Is there things that need to be changed up in the coming year? And of course, you can set an intention there with the new moon as well. Great month, Sagittarius. We have 2 new moons. Maybe investing money in something, maybe saving more money, maybe trying to start or pay more attention to a new revenue stream, for example. We have the Mars retrograde going on as well, and I think I'm going to talk about that right away, and then we'll finish up with Venus. Mars is going to retrograde on the 6th of December, is going to move back into Cancer on the 6th of January, station direct there on the 23rd of February, and is not going to be back out of this cycle until, I think, end of March, start of April, because it's still going to be in Cancer in March trying to catch up. Mars retrograde is really energy going on a loop. You know how Mars can be very, very, I always say Mars is the motor, a lot of energy, a lot of focus on reaching a target. But now Mars is going backwards, something he's definitely not enjoying. So whatever Mars has had you focused on, or Mars has been lending his energy to, you can feel like you're losing motivation. Things are just sort of waning or fizzling out. That is because Mars is going on a loop. And remember, Mars can also be very confrontational, can stand up for what he believes in. But that energy either just isn't there or is sort of getting, misdirected. Your 9th house is higher education, long distance travel. It is whatever broadens our horizon. So studying metaphysical things, philosophy, the law, medicine. It is organized religion. You might be studying a different religious practice. You might be wanting to take a trip far away. The eighth house is shared wealth. So a partner's wealth, a loan, a mortgage, an inheritance. It's also debt. So as much as you want to do something in these areas, the motivation wanes, or it seems you're coming up against a wall. Things aren't going ahead as quickly as you want them to, as Mars wants to. So just a good idea to sort of sit back a little bit and take notes, prepare, define what you really want to do, assess, and then be ready when Mars is out of the cycle and ready to go ahead once again. Mars is also going to oppose Pluto again, because Mars did that end of October, start of November when he was direct. Now he's going to do it while he is retrograde, and it's going to be on the Leo Aquarius axis. It was on the Cancer Capricorn axis because Pluto was just leaving Capricorn at the end of November. Was at the last degrees of Capricorn. At the end of October, start of November. Pluto has now moved into Aquarius on the 19th of November, is going to be there for good for the next 20 years. No more moving back and forth between Capricorn. First time in 248 years. So that's going to be really interesting for all of us. And of course, we have this Mars Pluto opposition. I did a whole video on that. I will link it down below. Definitely interesting to know what that energy is about. I will sum it up again briefly, but neither of these two will back down. Neither of these two will give up. An opposition is always a question of finding balance. It's going to be very, very hard to do. Plus, the Mars energy is skewed. So this takes place from the 25th of December to the 6th of January, exact on the 1st. So during that period, and even, as it builds those days before and dies down those days afterwards, again, don't get caught up in anything, because it's just going to be, dragged out. There won't be any solution. There won't be any middle ground to be found. You're going to feel as if, there's going to be the idea of wasted energy. You're going to feel like you can't work it out, or nothing is working out. It can even result in feeling powerless. So that's just the energy. I wrote choose your battles in my notes, but then, Sagittarius, I wrote just avoid the battles. This is whatever is familiar to us, short trips around town, our communications. I say familiar faces and places, siblings, cousins, other relatives, our neighbors. Short trips. This, as I said, is whatever is foreign, very, very different, mind expanding. Maybe you have, projects in one or two of these areas. Maybe, you had the idea of, taking university classes or traveling. But again, you're trying to find balance, between leaving the familiar, exploring what is different, how, what is going to change here. And this is going to be transformed definitely by this 20-year Pluto trek through your third house. But how is this going to be transformed? But how is it balancing out with whatever is different? And again, don't get caught up in anything, because it's just dragging out. Wait until the energy is passed before you try to continue with whatever you want to do. And still going to drag out in the ninth house, because Mars is still going to continue his retrograde into the first month, that whole cycle into the first month of 2025. This can even be with, Pluto being very much about power and control, that idea of, the familiar, or those familiar people, as I said, cousins and siblings, having some idea of retaining you, and you want to go explore what is different. Or again, just the attachment to what is familiar. Sometimes it's hard to leave what is familiar. Take notes. Don't get caught up in anything with this opposition. Don't think, I have to settle this. I have to figure out, what I'm going to do. I have to figure out how I'm going to balance all this out, because that's just, not going to happen. These two never want to give an inch. Venus, let's talk about lovely Venus, so much better. Venus spends the first 7 days in your second house of wealth and income and money, then moves into your third house of communications until January. Venus, very diplomatic, warm, fuzzy moments, perhaps with siblings, other relatives, your cousins. sweetens all our words, what we say, what we write. So if you have to discuss something, you know, very, very wonderful to have that Venusian energy there. Venus is going to conjunct Pluto, though, from on the 7th upon her arrival, because she does arrive on the 7th, going to last until about the 10th. Venus, and this is going to happen way before this Venus-Mars opposition, but Venus conjunct Pluto. Venus wants to, you know, forge ties, strengthen a bond. And again, this is, you know, relatives and cousins and siblings, but is going to want to do that very, very intensely with this conjunction to Pluto. You know, really a need to explore that deep connection, really strengthening those ties in a really, you know, bonding, melding way. You know, this is almost the idea of the, is it the blood oath, you know, that usually, I'm going to say usually kids do or teenagers do. Because I see this in, you know, movies, you know, we're all, you know, we make a pact, we're part of this club, or, you know, we're bonded for life type of thing. But the only downside of this, and it isn't an aspect that lasts a long time, only, you know, about 3-4 days, but it is really exploring maybe, you know, the darker side of that in terms of manipulation, in terms of power plays. You know, how strong is that tie, or how deep is that tie, and how much can I get away with in terms of manipulating to get what I want, or power plays based on those ties of love and affection. Do know that it is the shadow side, you know, of the Venus-Pluto conjunction. If this is a romantic encounter, the third house doesn't necessarily relate to romance, but if you do have a romantic encounter, it can be unusually intense. There can be that idea of, you know, deep intensity, almost this aura of danger or secrecy. So, you know, do know that it will be very intense. Someone very transformative. We want them transformative in a good way, not in a very dark way. But again, you know, that idea of a lot of intensity with ties, and they can be wonderfully intense again, on the upside with this Venus-Pluto conjunction. And then, of course, Venus is going to continue here into January, just making things, you know, wonderful and sweet, and wanting to enter into relationship with everyone and have those, you know, warm, fuzzy moments with those who are concerned by the third house. So lovely, Sagittarius. That is everything I wanted to tell you for December. Have a wonderful month. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.